Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to season 5 of Style Esports. This is going to be Wait for Late versus Stardust Crusaders, brought to you by myself, Diatripa, and I'm joined by the True Light here on the cast. We've already jumped into the pro draft, and the Caitlyn ban and the Galio ban have been rather quick so far.
Yeah, I mean, getting into this. Also, thank you for bringing us on. Anyway, I do like just to see Caitlyn banned on red side, just because I think even in spite of the recent nerf that she got, she's still quite good. But otherwise, taking a look at the bans so far, Wait for Late prioritizing the jungle pretty heavily, but not just the jungle. It's like really weird ganking path junglers like the Zac, like the Rek'Sai, and I guess Galio, just because it's a very good flex and can play reasonably well into a number of things. But on the other side of it, Stardust, they definitely don't want a strong bot lane from Wait for Late. You can see that reflected with the Caitlyn, with the Thresh banned away.
Yeah, it's interesting that there are so many more meta bans that have been taken away by Red, and that instant sort of Ornn lock-in for Wait for Late. They are picking themselves up a nice power lane, something nice and consistent, but they aren't asking for any answers, and ball's really in Stardust's court right now.
Yeah, I think Ornn is a good champion, right? I think Ornn is worth picking in a lot of situations. Heck, you can even blind pick him as long as you accept you're going to be playing weak side for sure. At the same time, though, just because he's a good pick doesn't mean he's the priority for your B1, your first lock-in on blue side. And I feel like that's a bit of a gaffe from Wait for Late. Perhaps they should think about something that's higher priority, at least for them. But they lock in the Ornn, and I think that's a fine decision enough. On the other side of things, Stardust Crusaders, they go with spicy stuff. You see the Yasuo, you see the Lulu. Both of those champions incredibly frustrating to play against in their own ways. Particularly Lulu for something like an Echo that really wants to dive in and assassinate.
Yeah, and importantly, we talked about them banning away strong bot lanes. There exists a world where this is the strong bot lane that they've decided to grab for themselves. And it looks like Wait for Late going to secure what looks like to be their two solo laners, as well as wanting to pick up an AD carry before it sort of gets too late in the draft.
Yeah, and Echo, the old Echo build where he was a bruiser that built Trinity Force and Sunfire Cape, that's long gone at this point, so you don't really see it in the top lane anymore nowadays. But Echo does exist as a flex pick between mid and jungle, I think, for a number of people still. I don't see the champion very often, and I would say that I'm a little more given to seeing it in the jungle, but that's mostly because of my personal experience. So maybe that's what Wait for Late is going for, right? They want to keep that as a flex between mid and jungle. Lock in something very consistent that performs reasonably well with the Ornn. And Jhin has, I think, at least in my opinion, a pretty consistent power gradient, especially against the champions that Stardust have drafted so far, like the Yasuo, Lulu, and Vayne, who none of them are tanks, so Jhin theoretically has an easier time killing them.
Yeah, which is really nice, especially when you manage to draft a Jhin and it isn't punished instantly. You see them already banning away the tankier Malphite, who obviously Jin's going to have a little bit of more difficult time into. And Stardust Crusaders feel like they're almost ignoring Wait for Late in their draft, and they're picking up these champions that I don't normally see locked in, especially blind.
Yeah, funny thing though, right? They're playing against Wait for Late, and they've locked in Yasuo, Lulu, and Vayne, right? These champions that can scale incredibly well into the late game. Meanwhile, Wait for Late, Ornn and Echo, Ornn, Echo, and Jhin, they all have reasonably good power gradients. Echo can get completely bonkers, maxing out on CDR, especially with 45% from the inspiration tree, but then also getting any additional Cloud Drakes. You have a very short cooldown on Chrono Break. So yeah, that can be incredibly dangerous, especially against all these squishy targets. But it's a bit of a funny thing, right? Because they're not necessarily drafting for hard late game. But on red side, Stardust, they definitely seem to be doing that.
Oh my god, they actually can't itemize more into late game. They picked themselves up Vladimir, Vayne, and I like the Yasuo that you were talking about. I think Yasuo might be the earliest power spike that we see in this composition, and that's crazy to me. At least so far, though, they've left themselves maybe a jungle counter pick available to make sure that they know where that Echo is going. And I'm curious to see whether this is really something that pays off for them, because wait for late, surely their game plan isn't in their name, right?
Yeah, I feel like I feel like wait for late, the composition they're putting together here thus far is just so much more cohesive. By the way, that's a Renekton lock-in.
Yeah,
That might be a. Is that Ornn mid?
It's possible.
I think it's Ornn mid.
It is. They may have flexed that. Renekton mid also theoretically a possibility, depending on where that Vladimir and Yasuo end up going. I think that they might rotate it, because Renekton does have a little bit more of a dominant matchup into somebody like a Yasuo.
Yeah. But I definitely feel like with what they've locked in here, it has to be Echo jungle, because I don't think I've seen any of these other champions jungle before, maybe with the exception of Ornn as a very, very fringe jungle pick, at best. Otherwise, Stardust, they completely round out their composition here by locking in Sejuani. Okay, so that's pretty interesting, because the deal with picking Sejuani is it can synergize incredibly well with melee solo laners. Stardust, you only have one melee solo laner to get those Sejuani stun stacks off. So I feel like that's indicative of they might want to try camping mid, but assuming that it's something that is like a Renekton or like an Ornn, that's not necessarily going to be super fun to fight into, especially early, because both of those Ornn gets very hard to kill, while Renekton gets hard to kill, and he can completely dominate a lane.
Yeah, and certainly ganking a Renekton who is at least somewhat ahead is going to be incredibly difficult. Granted, Echo Jungle maybe not having exactly the same agency, but his counter ganks can be ridiculously potent, and that's something that Sejuani would theoretically have to watch out for if they know that Yasuo is the one that wants to be getting ahead. Also, not necessarily confirmed for that mid lane yet. We could see flex to the top lane, and like I said, I suspect that we see some sort of rotation around where the Ornn Renekton end up going.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, the other thing I think about, at least in regards to all these teams, is no matter where the Ornn and the Renekton go, every single lane has the ability to set up a gank, right? For the Echo. Ornn has, like, the Searing Charge, I think? Yeah, Searing Charge to synergize with Volcanic Pillar and any potential terrain. Renekton can obviously just slice, get the stun off, and either dice forward or keep dicing out. But then on the other side, in the bottom lane, you have Jhin Nautilus, who is fantastic setup, especially into things that are so squishy, are so abusable, like a Lulu Vayne very early on.
Yeah, and actually, interestingly enough, just because you touched on the Jhin, was not punished really at any point in this draft. Sejuani really the only tank that that is going to have the easiest time dealing with the Jhin. Everybody else has to be afraid of this Jhin on Big White Shark if he starts getting ahead. Yeah,
definitely. And it's not as though, I think the only other armor that you might see in terms of itemization would be maybe a Zanya's for Vladimir. Otherwise, the rest of these champions, okay, wait, actually Death Dance for Yasuo, but that's just about it, right? Like, you aren't going to be seeing this profound amount of tankiness and difficulty for Jhin to handle on any other champion other than Sejuani, as you mentioned there. So I feel like the composition that Wait for Late have put together here is just very, very cohesive. They have this clear game plan that they want to get done. I think perhaps the only thing that they don't have a great deal of is wave clear going into the late game. But that's not in a massive amount of abundance for Stardust either. I feel like Stardust is a hard late game composition that can snowball out of control.
Yeah, they really are, and if Stardust do start to snowball, there's really no realistic way for Wait for Late to stop them, because, as you mentioned, they are weirdly the scaling team here. It's not what I expected jumping into this. Again, because of the names, I gotta touch on it, but now that we see all the lane assignments locked in as well, we know where everyone is going, and it is going to be a matter of whether that early snowball can be started for Wait for Late, and importantly, whether they can close out before the late game actually hits.
Yeah, because I personally feel like after you get past, let's say, 35 minutes maximum, at least one of the carries on Stardust is going to start scaling up, and scaling up pretty darn hard, right? The Yasuo is eventually going to hit that 100% crit, and obviously after casting Last Breath, you get the bonus armor penetration. Vayne doesn't worry a great deal. about anyone that can't CC her or can't kill her fast enough, and combining that with something like a Lulu is definitely a very good idea to make sure that happens. So Stardust, it's, I guess, counterintuitive given the names here, but they're the ones who want to wait for late game.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing that you touched on, just based on the Vayne and even things like the Yasuo, is that Stardust have the ability that you don't see in a lot of team fights necessarily, for their top laner, mid laner, and their AD carry to all become problems that wait for later going, we have to focus this person, but you can't focus 3 people at the same time. And it's really going to be a matter of whether wait for late can play out this, what I'm going to call a really strong team fight composition, given the amount of CC that they have, in order to focus down all these squishy targets appropriately.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think the one thing that might be interesting, at least as the early game goes, is where is Riblet going to put his attention, right? Are you going to see the attempt to put Renekton down early and bring your Yasuo up? Because like you pointed out, that's the earliest spike that they might have. Not just that, Yasuo is just very, very, very frustrating to play against, especially when he gets ahead in the early game where he's supposed to be, or I guess early-ish game, where he's supposed to be really weak. Vayne, Lulu, not so much. Vayne very, very reliant on items, Lulu reliant on level. Meanwhile, Vladimir, Ornn, I don't really think that lane's a very interactive one, honestly. So I generally think that Riblet is probably going to look towards just camp mid lane, put the Renekton down, get Yasuo spiking as fast as possible.
Yeah, and we'll have to see if Jump Off Bush can start to answer that early pressure that we expect Riblet to be putting onto the map. We're going to take a second here as we do load onto Summoner's Rift to hop to a short break before we really get into it. But on the other side, we'll be waiting for you to see whether Wait for Late can close out a game before that timer starts ticking down, and whether Stardust Crusaders can put the pedal to the metal and get this Yasuo going. Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the first game of tonight's best of 3. My name is Diatripa, and I am joined by the True Light as we jump into Stardust Crusaders versus Wait for Late, and a bit of a reversal of the roles here.
Yeah, Wait for Late on the blue, they have that very cohesive comp that seems to be more oriented towards team fighting and especially biased towards that mid game and winning, faster than the composition here that Stardust Crusaders put together, which is 4 carry, like you're not 4 carries, but like 3 carries to scale up very, very well into late game, plus Lulu and Sejuani. I think that was really ambitious to look for in that particular spot right there, I'm going to be honest. But yeah, I don't really think any like hyper early game action is going to happen. Otherwise, I do think it's kind of curious that you see here with Goober taking Grasp, because Grasp is something you're typically going to see pretty often with Ornn with the into a melee top laner, but I don't necessarily like it into a ranged top laner because you're not necessarily proccing Grasp super often.
Yeah, it's something that, might just be the keystone that he felt managed to fit the situation best, because there aren't a lot of other keystones that necessarily come to mind on that Ornn, and maybe not a matchup that he's too familiar with, as Vladimir hasn't necessarily been the mainstay of the meta in this season as he has been in previous, but Condor going to be forced to flash away as he takes a bad trade into the Renekton. Speaking of maybe being unexperienced at the match, it costs him his life. Welcome back, everyone. After some brief technical difficulties, we have not missed any kills, fortunately, and we are back after Yasuo overstepped his bounds in the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, like Hondor did burn the flash there, and you can see Ethan being down both of his summoners. But at the end of the day, that's the first blood for the Renekton, which is definitely really comfortable. The champion's a hard lane bully, has the PTA, definitely wants to get that done. So good things going so far for Wait for Late, but in the bot lane, some action breaking out.
Yeah, nice hook from Daylight will force the flash out of Sleek there, and Jump Off Brush is here, but his lane should be perfectly safe. With the mid lane going so well, bot lane getting the flash, it looks like Wait for Late is getting the early game that they desire.
Yeah, and you can see there, Daylight only burned one summoner right there, which is the Ignite. On the other side of it, Sleek had to use Exhaust and Flash to stay alive. So that's down 2 summoners, especially with this bottom lane between Shark and Daylight that has pretty strong gank setup for Jump Off Bush. But there in the mid lane, we have more action breaking out.
Here, Jump Off Brush is going to manage to stop the Glacial Assault. But Ethan is still in this, gets the heal off of the Q. Toldemik not going to be quite enough, though, as he goes down to the counter gank from the Sejuani. Hondor picks himself up with one, and the jungler gets another.
Yeah, and that is the power of pairing Sejuani with a melee solo laner, right? Especially with someone like Yasuo, where Steel Tempest gets you the auto reset, allows you to stack up Sejuani's stun passive. 2 very easy kills picked up. Jump Off Brush did not flash, but easier to lock up Ethan, just because there is no flash available on the Renekton. So despite the early game lead going for Wait for Late, works out pretty well.
And down in the bot lane doesn't find nearly enough time, but Vayne, still somebody who can do some true damage with the third proc there. It might be Daylight who ends up being caught out. Doesn't necessarily have the dredge line up just yet. Permafrost is going to lock him up for just a second more. Vayne picks up a kill in the bot lane, and even if mid has been stabilized, now it's bot that's going to need some attention from Wait for Late.
Yeah, Daylight and Shark were able to get, the 2v2 kill onto Sleek very quickly, but with Riblet coming down, the Sejuani is just all over the map right now, punishing Daylight and White Shark for being out of position, gets the kill on to Daylight, so it's an even trade overall. And honestly, Stardust Crusaders, they're looking rather comfortable despite giving up first blood.
Yeah, gold lead is in their favor by almost 1,000 at this point, and it's been mostly off the back of Total Riblet being able to answer aggressive plays that are coming out of Wait for Late.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Riblet really is doing everything that probably really needs to. Like we mentioned before, Yasuo is going to be the champion that spikes up as fast as possible, and you can see that Hondor already has the Berserker's Greaves completed. Also, Suwu has Berserker's Greaves as well, so definitely going to be getting those auto attacks in faster, and it definitely helps against something like the Jhin, right? All you can see here that White Shark has is a Kerchies Shard, which feels pretty terrible, at least in my opinion, into something like a Vayne.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that Kerchies Shard, not necessarily the back of his dreams. Jhin more comfortable, maybe purchasing a little bit of AD, and honestly has grabbed the boots for himself, so we'll be able to weave in and out of these trades a little more easily. But the level 2 boots being picked up for the Vayne is going to mitigate that a lot. Level 6 is hitting the top lane, and Flame, not quite at the cooldown that he'd like to be for the Vladimir just yet, isn't at the late game stage.
Oof. Nice slice and dice forward there from Ethan. Instantly procs that PTA, gets the nice chunk of burst damage almost. But you can already see here, Total Riblets once again hovering around this mid. They want to punish Ethan.
Yeah, and now that Hondor has the ability to use the last breath, will be easy to jump onto Ethan. He just gets knocked up by the Sejuani. Permafrost is going to be available to stack. There's the last breath, dashes away just to get away from the Crocodile. Dominus is ticking, but it won't be enough to heal him up through this. Toldemik not available for the heal, and Total Riblet going to pick that one up as the mid laner goes down. Hondor, though, going to get flashed off by a Jump Off Brush. Now it's going to be Arctic Assault from Total Riblet that could get him out of
Flash.
Flash isn't quite available just yet. The ultimate's going to buy him a little bit of time, but there's the teleport from Flame, looking to punish the roam from his top laner, and will just get the Hemoplague onto Goofy. Goober get the kill for himself, and that's Drake priority as well as 2 kills.
Yeah, and you can see all of Stardust Crusaders are here around this dragon. The top, or the TP from Flame enables them to get this done. But thinking about that fight in mid lane, thinking about how it started with Ethan going forward, being so aggressive, and I like the move from Hondor to just dash away, make sure he isn't hard overcommitting, didn't burn the flash vitally to stay alive, but ooh, that's a hook.
Yeah, a little bit of grease from Sleek. Actually gets him quite low, but a nice condemn from Suicidal. Might mean the big white shark is getting this turned around on him. We'll get the third proc and might get the kill here. Heal's going to be used, and big white shark managed to get the big fourth shot to turn it around on the Subu.
And that is the difference of having Exhaust. Even though Exhaust isn't going to negate the true damage that Vayne puts down, it makes the attack speed that much slower, which is what Vayne really relies on to get those procs. So, Big White Shark getting that outplay, but man, in that mid lane, Hondor ate a ton of damage.
And yeah, this is the power of the Renekton, even though he's been ganked twice, is down in kills, is still up in CS because of the inherent lane bully style that Renekton is enabled by, and Ethan looking really comfortable on this pick.
Absolutely. He recognizes that as long as Riblet isn't there, there's the opportunity to punish the Yasuo, right? He knows that even though he's died twice, getting that Bork is just so vital for Renekton, and he's able to sustain really well, but also do a ton of damage to his laning opponent.
Yeah, and really after the Berserker's Greaves, no additional power spike being picked up for the Yasuo. We do have the Crit Cloak, which is going to give him a little bit of something, but it isn't really that item spike that Yasuo is known for. We've now hit what is looking to be a little bit less than the gold lead that Stardust Crusaders have had before. The game's still relatively even, and I'm looking for somebody to make a big play. This might be it.
Call the Forge God.
Almost hit by the Call of the Forge God, but jump off Rush is here, and there is no pool available for Flame. Gonna get jumped on by jump off Rush. Still nothing available for him in terms of the ultimate, but he will grab himself the kill, and now they have to deal with total Riblet. 6 has been hit by jump off Rush, but Goober will just go down to the combo from the Sejuani. Ultimate going to be used and should be able to pick up a double kill here.
Goodness.
Sejuani cleans up in the top lane.
Yeah, Riblet, he just walks in, completely punishes Jump Off Brush and Goober for how far they walked forward to kill Flame. Doesn't even need to use Flash to get the kill under tower. And now this Sejuani is 4-0-3, but oh, another hook in the bot lane!
Hook straight onto Sleek. He could go down here. He's going to use the Polymorph to buy a little bit of time. The Big White Shark going to pick that one up. Traded back this time. No exhaust is available in the mid lane. Ethan overstays his welcome and goes down as well. Suicidal's looking for another kill here. And this might be a play that is coming up all Stardust Crusaders. Looks like he's going to be able to get out. Daylight walks away to safety, but still loses 2 of his teammates.
Yeah, I would have to say that Daylight, Dredgeline gives you a 50% reset when you hit terrain, which is really, really important as to why Daylight survived right there. But also, this time around, the exhaust wasn't available for Big White Shark, right? So there's no way to make sure that Suicidal doesn't get the kill, and it turns into a very positive play in the bot lane for Stardust. And once again, in the mid lane, it's pretty much a tale of as old as time at this point. Just another gank with the Sejuani Yasuo synergy, that melee power coming forward, and now Ethan is 1-3. Meanwhile, you have a bounty on Yasuo and you have a bounty on Sejuani.
Oh my god, and Sejuani 4-0-4 has been playing this game really, really well, punishing missteps both in terms of just overextensions by laners as well as the counter ganks, and it's actually put Stardust Crusaders in a place where the Sejuani that enables their composition is now in a place to actually do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Riblet isn't going to get any less tanky as the game goes on, right? It's just going to be harder and harder and harder to take the Sejuani down. Ooh, that's unlucky. You can see Ethan actually tried to use the Cutlass to interrupt Hondor's back, but because Yasuo had the fully stacked passive, procs the shield, back doesn't get interrupted. So very unfortunate to use that active cooldown, and it doesn't really turn into anything, but that's a 4-stack in the bottom lane.
Yeah, I think we're going to see another engage here onto Sleek. I'd be surprised if he doesn't go down this time, but this time Vane's not going to be able to turn it around. Final Hour is procced just for the invisibility, and trying to get away from the Nautilus ultimate. Condemn is going to land him by a little bit of time.
Oh,
and
no.
Total Riblet shows up with the Glacial Prison. It is exactly
Keep coming in.
Suicidal, though, gets flashed on by the Jhin. Not going to be nearly enough. Will the Ornhorn do it? Picks up the double kill for Goofy Goober and goes under the tower to pick up this Sejuani. Not nearly enough was bought. And a little bit of an overextension cost Stardust Crusaders their lives.
Yeah, and it's Goober who TPs down, burns the flash, gets all the kills for his trouble, and now, well, nope, got mixed up. Wait for late. They definitely start getting things together, right? They've almost completely evaporated the previous gold deficit. And that's pretty much the power of the composition they drafted, right? They are the ones who are completely enabled to play aggressively. They have this front line, they have the dredge line, and they are able to look for that dive. The thing that really salvaged it was Goober coming down and using Call the Forge God to make sure the play doesn't go negative, because Riblet was so darn tanky and hard to kill as that Sejuani, and almost turned things around with the Glacial Prison.
It was so insane because it really felt like they were going to be able to turn that turret dive around, but as soon as they leave from under tower, Big White Shark really shows up with the damage and takes Suicidal and Sleep to a level where Ornn can just start cleaning that up, turns the play completely in the favor of Wait for Late, and like you mentioned, this is the mid-game power spike that we can expect from this composition.
Yeah, and you can also see off that play, right? Goober now has the Abyssal Mask completed, able to do so much magic damage, and gonna be almost like the jungle counterpart for Stardust Crusaders. Ornn is very, very, very difficult to kill, especially when he starts getting ahead. Gets all the bonus MR and armor, but then gets the Forge Fire items in, and it's incredibly hard to kill him while he does all that damage. So, Wait for Late, they're actually starting to position themselves pretty well. As you said, the albatross, so to speak, around their necks, though, is the scaling of the carries that Stardust Crusaders have.
Yeah, and with Vladimir having a bit of a garage sale in the top lane, and it's going to be a little hard. Suicidal going to get caught out. Dredgeline going to let, and he's flanked by Ethan. He's just going to jump straight onto him. Sleep should follow easily. And while their jungler is in the top side, Stardust Crusaders decide to take a fight in bot. It doesn't necessarily go their way.
Yeah, you can't take that fight, even if you think you can. But
Total Riblet manages to take down Goofy Goober in the top lane there while you were making that point. A little bit of a surprising turn of events.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you are Goofy Goober in this particular situation, you don't need to fight Total Riblet. You just need to make sure that the Herald drops. Oh, I think he's completely out of position here.
Yeah, he's going to be joined by Hondor, though they could look to turn this around. Jump off brush, might have gone a little bit too far forward, knows it and has to back off. Now, though, it's just Hondor and 100 health Sejuani, who's here in the jungle. No slice and dice available just yet. They might not be able to find Riblet here. Looks like they're going to be able to walk out.
Hondor just completely shepherding his jungle to safety. Make sure the Sejuani doesn't go down. There's no position or punish for being out of position right there. But just to finish my thought on what I was talking about with Suwu and Sleek, right? It's fine that they looked for a pick, but you have to be really, really careful, right? Because all of the gold that is really represented on your team is on Riblet. Unless you're 100% sure that you're not going to get punished for that kind of play, don't take it.
Yeah, and now that we see that we have some grouping up from Stardust Crusaders in the bot side, it looks like they're looking to rotate the Yasuo into the side lane here and hopefully get him enabled with some more gold while they take a tower in or manage to push down and make pressure in the mid lane.
Yeah, and I think the other champion who's just really well positioned right now for Stardust is definitely going to be Hondor. Granted, you're down almost 20 CS, but you have that 150 gold tier or gold bounty to your name, have the Phantom Dancer already fully completed. And if there was a lane that he was going to play into, it would probably be this one, just because you have that win wall available and you can deny the dredge line as well as the flourish from Big White Shark for a follow-up route from somewhere. Otherwise, I think that Stardust, I think they're fine with this. because the game is not getting accelerated super hard on them, right? And they're still the ones who have this gold lead, and they will snowball out of control as the carries get more and more gold into their pockets.
Yeah, and it's really the state at which the game is even right now is really favorable, like you mentioned, for Stardust Crusaders, not only because, oh no, we have another perhaps kill in the mid lane, even the guy managing to flash over the wall. The Dredge is going to be blocked, ultimate not going to be so much, as Hondor might go down here instead. Gets the last the 2, though, doesn't manage to be enough, will be taken down by Big White Shark, putting himself at 4, 1, and 5. Really going to be good into these squishy members that we talked about.
Yeah, I mean, Big White Shark in that particular situation, right as he was getting suspended by Last Breath, was actually reloading. So if there was just a fraction more of a second that Hondor was able to survive, that 4th shot wouldn't have come down. And there is the reality that he actually might be able to trade back onto Big White Shark. But because of the exhaust, because of the 4th shot, the Yasuo does go down. But on the other side of things, Ethan, getting continuously pressured here, had to burn the flash pretty much the moment that Riblet shows up.
Yeah, and having the Renekton have to push up so far when the mid lane tower is missing is going to be able to be punished in that way by the Sejuani, who's shown us that she's willing to make these engagements, has now picked herself up the Warmogs as well, which is actually really important for the Sejuani.
Is this going to be a steal attempt?
I see a steal here. They don't really have the vision on it right now, but the teleport's being channeled, and even if it's not a steal, this is going to be a fight. It is going to be the Dragon picked up by Total Riblet, and they might be able to disengage this Polymorph used, but Call to Forge God is still available if they want to try and fight this. Searing Charge knocks up 3. Goopy Goober doing work here. Jump off Rush flashes into the backline. Total Riblet manages to escape with his life, but it's not going to be nearly enough as Jin is doing work, and Big White Shark marches his way forward with those 4th shots.
Yeah, and the moment Goofy Goober's TP finishes, it's just so hard for Stardust Crusaders to play, right? And off the flash into the Searing Charge, into a 3-man knockup, calls the goat in, net gets even more damage down, and now, wait for late, they've taken back the gold lead. They're so well positioned now, and that's the type of acceleration they really need to close the game out as fast as possible against what Stardust Crusaders have drafted for themselves, right? They need to keep having these team fights. They need to keep forcing these team fights in order to make sure they crack the base and they can own the map and close out.
Yeah, like you mentioned, this is really what they need to do, right? But when we say need, it's not just about this would be optimal for them, because we've hit that 20-minute mark, and this is where we start seeing the peaks and sort of the strongest peaks come in for Wait for Late. If they don't manage to close this out in the next 10, 15 minutes, it could be that Stardust Crusaders have the out-sustain. If we don't manage to see them start losing objectives, and now that they've picked up the Mountain Drake for themselves, that Soul, which is a win condition on its own, can start to become almost a pipe dream for Wait for Late.
Yeah, and I think the thing here is that with it being a Mountain Soul, which makes your team tankier and tankier the more you get because it gives you bonus armor and MR, Wait for Late, they need to do a minimum of crack the base, but taking out the jungler might be an answer for it.
This is one, not nearly as tanky once the passive goes down, and Total Riblet trying to get out. Arkansas going to be blocked. Call the Forge God, though, manages to knock her up and take her down. Jin picking up the next one as the group from Wait for Late manages to catch out just 2 members here.
Yeah, and like they continuously find the ability or the opportunity to take fights, right? They have the composition for it.
Yeah, Exhaust maybe not going to do nearly enough into the Vladimir. He is built for taking you down, young man. And Big White Shark is going to be taken down. Not so big in this ocean anymore. Flame flashing forward. He knows he's got the kill onto Daylight and will be able to become the side lane monster that we dream of the Vladimir becoming.
TP in the top lane.
Top side, though, I'm looking for Jump Off Rush to be taken down here as Vladimir has teleported up and looking to put this game on his back is Flame as he runs down to the enemy.
Yeah, and this is just the scariness of the scaling in so many ways, right? Although Suwu doesn't have even like 2 items completed, Sleek on a Lulu is something that really compensates for that. And because they're able to win that top lane fight so hard, they're enabled to look for this Baron.
Yeah, Baron on Stardust Crusaders is really massive. This is an objective that we think we need Wait for Late to pick up if they wanted to be able to close this out. The denial of this puts the burden of execution on them so heavily.
Yeah, and they just grab up the Baron after taking such a positive fight for themselves in the top lane. And that's what we mentioned in Champ Select, right? Leak on Lulu is a champion that completely enables hyper carries to hit their late game faster, right? And it's not just with health picks, it's also by the fact that you have the, I think it's Hugify, or Wild Growth. There we go. It's Wild Growth to cast onto a Vayne, give the Vayne more health and the AoE slow field to stay alive. And off that fight, they do stay alive. Flame channels the TP, and they get a massive punish onto Wait for Late.
Yeah, and when they're able to set up these team fights where they are chasing Wait for Late down, it's just a story of victory, really, as Flame, he's decided to make another one. Half health Ethan, the guy, and I think he might be able to take him down here. Has no summoners to commit to the fight, but will be able to get the speed up off these minions.
Yeah, not just that, you can see Spellbinder completed, forces the early flash. Oh my word. Ethan cannot be competitive in a fight, and he knows it. Uh-oh.
Oh no, we see the Orin caught out here as he's looking for the tower dive. Will just be taken down all on his own. Jump off rush, trying to make this up. Should be able to take down Sleek here. Chrono break out, and Big White Shark, he's looking for those fourth shots onto Suicidal. Won't be able to find him those final hours, throws him invisible and gets him the dashes away. Now it's Daylight and Jump Off Rush that are looking to finish this one off. Can he get out of range there? But the fourth shot lands and chunks him out. Just as Jump Off Rush managed to get on top of the Vayne. Ethan, the guy, to be taken down in the mid lane though, and Total Riblet just has to keep the members of Wait for Late around.
Yeah, Riblet knows that his teammates are in the mid lane. Hondor and Flame are pushing that mid lane inhibitor down. They're going to go onto that top lane inhibitor turret in addition to that. And even though Wait for Late, they find a number of kills, and that was a beautiful fourth shot, plus the phase dive from Jump Off Bush and Shark. But, uh-oh, is this a punish?
Yeah, and the fact that he missed that knockup might be Big White Shark going down. Flame managed to dodge the dredge flame, but doesn't manage to get too much else done, as the shutdown will be picked up by Jump Off Brush. There's an incredible amount of burst pops out of Big White Shark in him.
Yeah, and you saw it. That's a 950 gold payday, taking out Flame, going straight into Jump Off Bush's pocket. Which is pretty huge, because as the Echo, you just want the CDR. You need to be able to cast Chrono Break as often as possible, especially in these types of situations. But even on top of that, you can see now, Flame, he had a Magi Soul Stealer, and all those stacks get completely taken off once he dies. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them.
Yeah, and now Mejai's Soul Stealer is sitting in a place where it's not necessarily gold efficient, hasn't completed the Zanyas yet, and the space that he's taking up in his inventory is going to keep him from doing that. So we might see the Vladimir be set back a little bit. Still is scaling quite nicely though, as, oh god, these condemns have been really on point. Daylight doesn't have too much to go to because of the Mountain Soul blocking him. Look, he's going to be forced to the ultimate flashback from Suicidal. Does manage to pick up the support. Now Total Riblet looking for Goofy Goober. It doesn't matter if he's a tank. They have Vayne and Yasuo along with the Lulu. Andor rushes into the top, or into the front line, tanks up the exhaust, will be taken down. But Suicidal now untouched here, as even the guy, Cole the Meek, is going to finish him off. Flame is here, and it just feels like I'm waiting for somebody to start popping off, and it might just be Flame. Doesn't have the pool up just yet, gets knocked up though, and he's going to be taken down. Sleek is left all alone, as Wait for Late managed to play that team fight perfectly, and they get a complete ace onto Stardust Crusaders.
Definitely, and I think there's three huge things, if I'm being honest, right? A, Hondor and Suwu go forward. Suwu burning flash aggressively, looking to lock up Daylight, who is now respawned. But not just that, Hondor, it looked so good, right? Getting those dashes through the minion waves. But the moment that Wild Growth was cast, he didn't throw down Last Breath. I'm not 100% certain if he was CC'd or not, but because that Last Breath doesn't go off, there aren't the kills, and they end up losing an inhibitor off of it.
Yeah, now equalized inhibitors here is going to put Stardust Crusaders on the back foot. We mentioned this was a game of whether we could see the focus come out here. Looks like Daylight is just going to go down off of maybe staying a little bit too long. Yasuo able to chase through minions, but the focus from Wait for Late is what won them that fight. Yasuo, Vayne, then we see the Vladimir. and the carries being knocked down one at a time means that Lulu can't really spread out all of her cooldowns to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. And now it looks like Big White Shark, he might be next on the plate here.
I don't know if anybody manages to get this kill. Vladimir not going to have the flash that he wants to commit necessarily, but it is going to be the long death timer on the Jhin here if we want to see some map control established for Stardust.
Yeah, they should definitely start getting the vision around Baron. You can see it's going to be spawning in less than a minute. But the other thing is, I feel like Flame just wanted to rush out back onto the map when they killed Daylight. I don't think you need to commit your TP for that play, because I honestly think Hondor can easily lock up the kill. And now that the Summoner is down, oh man!
Suicidal goes so low as Echo's starting to reach that point where he is really scary. He has the Lich Bane under his belt as well as the Zhonya's for some extra survivability, and they've got to be careful. Ethan, the guy, though, he's under turret. He's at Renekton and would really know where to go. Total Riblet's going to be tanking this one up, and Flame might manage to pick up the kill. Hondor is going to grab it with the last breath, and that's one more wiped off the board here as Stardust Crusaders looking to maximize their ability and their impact on this game. Flame from the Nautilus. Can he make this work? Yasuo is CC'd as well and should be taken down, and Flame's going to be forced to run away here. He's going to be tagged by the second shot, and the flash is forced out of him just to get away from the group.
Yeah, this game is just so back and forth, right? One moment, wait for late, they get a huge team fight, they equalize things, but then Stardust Crusaders, oh, they find a pick, and now they're able to own the map again. But with the death timers being such as they are, the Baron is up, and I think wait for late, they want to grab it.
You gotta be careful with your jump off brush, though. You don't necessarily measure up to the Vladimir in terms of damage on your own yet. It doesn't seem to matter, though. Wait for late, they want to jump straight into this Baron pit. They're in Baron pit against a Vladimir, and I'm a little bit concerned for their livelihood.
Yeah, but there is no Hemo Plague on Flame, which means he's not super enabled to go forward. Oh no!
Oh Jesus, Echo walks straight into the pool from the Vladimir. Now should be able to take down Big White Shark as well. He's right on top of him. Doesn't even get the fourth shot off. Now Baron should definitely go over to Stardust Crusaders. They have a huge numbers advantage here. Sejuani has just shown up to take up the Baron.
Yeah, I don't think Jump Off Bush was watching the fact that Flame was channeling up Tides of Blood right there. So he instantly just gets gibbed because he'd been previously, tanking the Baron, was already very low, didn't even press Chrono Break, and I'm not really sure if that enables them to survive. Just because Lulu is already there, you saw that Sleek did end up using Exhaust. That's a huge punish, and now once again, after a punish, a team is going to go to an objective, and this time Mountain Soul is on the plate.
And it doesn't look like it's not even contested at all. They don't want to take a fight with such a huge numbers disadvantage. Orin and Jhin spawn right after that soul is taken, and it's going to make the game so much harder for Wait for Late.
Yeah, try killing a Sejuani with Warmog's Armor, Gargoyle Stone Plate, and Mountain Soul, and tell me how fun that is. Because I think Wait for Late, that's kind of their job right now, and I don't think any of them are super enabled to get a lot of damage down, especially with what Riblet's build is. Granted, there's not a lot of MR, right? At the same time, there's not a ton of consistent magic damage that's going to burn through the health that Riblet has stacking up.
Yeah, and that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on, because Riblet going down is something that denies a lot of engage, a lot of CC from Stardust Crusaders, but they don't have it in a lot of other places. But we're also seeing so much scaling come in from Wait for Late that it might not matter even if your Sejuani goes down. Hondor, though, he sees Big White Shark all alone. Looks for the knockup, isn't going to find it. And now the flash for the Arctic Assault is going to land onto him. Can they manage to lock up this Yasuo? He's dueling Gooper in the backside and actually losing to the Orin. Permafrost is going to manage to set him up for a little while. The Searing Charge knocking off Hondor. The flash forward will secure him, but in the meantime, Flame is right on top of Daylight. And this should be the team fight going directly in the favor of Stardust. They have their Vayne, they have their Yasuo. Vayne taking up so much damage, though. It's just going to manage to grab the inhibitor. Has to be really, really careful of Jump Off Rush, who has the ability to burst her down completely.
Yeah, and the thing is, even though Hondor goes down, it's at the point in the game that Stardust Crusaders, this is exactly what we mentioned. You have so many carries that once all of them start scaling up, does it really matter which one you take out first? Like, all of them are priority targets. They all need to die as fast as possible. And if you're not going to be able to do that, then the other carries are going to completely punish you. And that's completely what happens, right? Hondor goes down to Goofy Goober, who completely just, well, he oraned him, right? He's just too tanky to die, and Yasuo does end up going down. But off the back of it, Jump Off Bush, Ethan, Shark, and Daylight, they can't remotely handle the fact that Suwu has a Lulu just completely hopped on him, giving him the shield, giving him the attack speed, and then also Flame being a huge carry onto his own. 18 stacks on the Medjais now, making it very difficult to catch him, but also very difficult to kill him because he has so much healing and so much damage.
Yeah, and the fact that this Vladimir is super able just buys, like you mentioned, so much more time. Tides of Blood not going to find anybody, but Flame with the other 3 members that have joined him is just starting to be able to zone Wait for Late off of this tower. The flank from Total Rivulet going to make sure that they can't stick around. Superman is pushing in the mid lane, and I think they get this inhibitor tower before too long.
Yeah, and it looks like, okay, so you can see now that Ethan is backing, so I guess this is like their final stand, but I have no idea how they're going to survive. Oh my goodness!
Just kills Jump Off. Rush is going to be forced to Chrono Break, and we'll just go down here. It's already a 4v5. Can they lock up the Vladimir for long? And Zazanya's buying so much time.
Oh my lord.
Stoneblade plus Wild Growth onto Total Rivulet knocks 3 people up, and Daylight is suddenly the only member left standing as everybody gets wiped off the face of the rift on Wait for Late. The Nexus will go down to Stardust Crusaders, and they will take game 1.
Stardust Crusaders, they took Wait for Late's name and they turned it into a team comp. And
victory.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, it's the NA Classic, right? Just play for late game. But what really happens here is Wait for Late did not effectively punish. They found instances where they would punish Stardust for mispositioning, for overcommitting, but the composition that Stardust had drafted for themselves screams we win late game. And Wait for Late, they didn't. They don't have the people that can bust down this hyper tank Sejuani. They don't have, okay, they do kind of have all the CC in the world, but with the CC being there, the damage just wasn't able to follow up. And Wait for Late, they can't keep up, they can't continue punishing, and they eventually just completely lose the game.
Yeah, so many threats on the side of Stardust Crusaders. Flame able to really, in my opinion, take over the game. I'm sure everybody heard me saying his name a lot in these teamfights because the Vladimir just becomes such a massive worry, especially when you have something like an immobile Jhin that can't really get away from him. And the composition, just the waiting game from Stardust Crusaders, lets them walk away with this game. And we'll see if Wait for Late manage to turn around and maybe play a little bit more into their namesake during game 2. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Game 2 of Wait for Late versus Stardust Crusaders. We have swapped sides here as we get into the second game, and the bans have changed just a little bit, especially on the side of Wait for Late.
Yeah, just going over like a quick recap for what Stardust Crusaders banned in the previous game. Those are all the same 3 bans, but on the other side of things, Wait for Late, you can definitely say there's a degree of adjustment there. Banning out 3 of the 5 champions that Stardust Crusaders drafted last game. Although, wait, no, the Orin was on their side, my bad.
Yeah, certainly not wanting to give over that Orin. Felt like it was a really powerful pick and was doing dirty things to that Yasuo in the mid game. But the response is the Galio that we saw banned last game. Senna perhaps being picked up by Wait for Late. Looks like it's going to be maybe a little bit more of a tankier, maybe a little bit slower game this time.
Yeah, Senna definitely scales up infinitely, and sometimes it feels like she completely controls the game, especially when she gets those soul stacks going into the higher and higher numbers, gets the crit chance and the range and the AD. Very hard to deal with. Blind picking it, I'm not 100% sure about, because it is an abusable champion, at least in my opinion. Pairing it with something like Rakan can definitely work, though. Although, what I do have to say is that Stardust with the Galio, I think they want to keep that potentially as a flex. Like you see it like still fringe, I think, in support role. Mm-hmm. Typically, it's going to be a mid, and that's also not necessarily something you want to blind pick. But I do think that it was something that was banned away from them in the first game, so it makes a little bit more sense that they just grab it right now. Yeah,
and Stardust Crusaders, I'm waiting for the lock in here. It is going to be the Jinx that ends up being locked in for them, and honestly, with that being picked up, I'm not even surprised if they're blinding the Galio at that point, because even if it is perhaps a little bit of a flex, at the point that you're picking Jinx, that we don't really see too often, I think that Stardust Crusaders are throwing everything at the wall.
Yeah, and they drafted Jinx this time around. In the previous games, AD carry for Stardust was a Vayne. Both of them scale up very, very well into the late game. Also, Lulu is still available. So maybe they want to just go with the Lulu again to completely enable Jinx to hit late game faster. You have Galio to come in with heroic entrance in case they try to jump on the AD carry. But meanwhile, Wait for Late, they round out their first pick phase with the Rammus. I think that's a bit premature. If I'm being honest.
It feels like it, but at the same time, here's why I think it's a really smart pickup. We have a Jinx and we have a Rek'Sai, both of which Jinx obviously going to be a lot of attack damage, and Rek'Sai going to be a decent amount of attack damage as well. Jinx really the one that you're worried about, but Galio, you're betting that that's going into the mid lane, and you're saying, I don't think you're going to really have magic damage on this composition to chew through something like a Rammus, so I am going to ruin your day now.
That's a really fair consideration to make. I would definitely have to say that right now, Wait for Late, their one engage tool is Rakan. And between Galio and Jinx, that is okay. I do like the Lulu ban. Just take that away.
100. Yeah.
But Rakan is kind of this case of, if you engage, you really have to hope that you don't get burned down right after your engage combo gets used, because Rakan is not a super tanky champion and can get really punished if he is the only engage tool for his team. So I want to see Wait for Late pick something that's a little bit more engaged. Or wait a second.
What is happening? This might be a Rammus top lane? Top lane seems right. I'm just going to check the league clan to make sure what's going on. Yeah. As it looks like we don't have anything else.
Do you think... I'm so confused by this.
I'm super down for it. I like this dark tech from Wait for Late. This is most likely a Rammus top. Wouldn't you think you're not sending Kha'Zix to a solo lane?
Yeah, I guess this has to be Rammus top. Because Kha'Zix would not last, I think, in a solo lane versus either potentially a Galio or now a Syndra, just because both of those things can punish it very hard. With the Syndra lock, though, I feel like that might be a Galio support.
I think,
and now they are gonna blind pick top, right? Okay, good.
This is clicking now.
Theoretically, I feel like Galio can be incredibly punishing for a Rakan in the bottom lane if he tries to get aggressive. But otherwise, wow, Rammus top lane versus Renekton. Like, they picked Renekton into that, right?
Yes, yes, they did theoretically, but if it's a Kled, I'm very.
That has to be Kled mid. Like, you can't.
But are you Kled midding into? I guess you can't Rammus into Syndra. Somebody get me a client. Get me a client right now.
I am so confused.
With that being said, though, the fact of this composition is an incredible amount of engage when you combine Kled with Rammus and Rakan. I think that you have to be on the back foot as Stardust Crusaders if we ever see Wait for Late group up. And we saw them being perfectly willing to just walk around the map as 4 members come the mid game of last game. And I wonder if they managed to do that very same thing and just start blowing people up.
Yeah, I feel like that's what they want to get done here. Like you mentioned, between Kha'Zix and Rammus and Kled, and Rakan to follow up. Potential for a lot of damage, especially onto a single target, right? Because that's actually the issue that I have with what Wait for Late pretty much drafted right here. Rammus is single target CC, Kled single target CC. Rakan has a fair chunk of AoE CC, but not a whole ton to, let's say, lock down a backline, or lock down a backline long enough, say a Jinx and a Syndra, especially when you have something to protect them like a Galio, in theory. Because there is no way Wait for Late can easily engage if Galio has taunt up. It'd be very difficult.
Galio taunt would absolutely ruin Wait for Late's game plan, because everybody's going to be jumping onto the Jinx and suddenly attacking the tank Galio. And at that point, you're in the middle of a Renekton, of a Rek'Sai, and of a Syndra, who is going to be itemizing in a way that is going to wreck builds like Kled's and like Rammus's that don't really necessarily want to start picking up magic resist.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just so surprised by what Wait for Late have drafted. Okay, wait. Now, okay, Goofy is the one with the Kled.
Yeah.
Right now.
I can confirm that, yeah.
Which means Ethan would have to be on the Rammus.
Maybe they're swapping, though, right? You can't have Rammus mid. That's not... Oh my god, what if you go Predator Rammus and just live...
And you just run the side lanes?
Just run, like Nunu mid, but terrible.
Wait. They can't. That can't be it.
I'm actually into it. Yes. This is okay. I expect Rammus to be flexed to the top side because Kled is the safer farmer than Rammus, and into Syndra that's what you want, right? But if they don't, it's 100% Predator Rammus. There's
I cannot. For the life of me, I can't think that Rammus is going to go mid. Not just because Syndra has magic damage, right? But because Rammus cannot wave clear to save his life.
No, he'd get absolutely wrecked in this mid lane.
Part of Syndra's strength is wave clearing.
And maybe it's jump off bush saying, you know what, maybe they're gonna funnel jump off bush, leave boots on Rammus, right? He's gonna come in, clear the wave when it gets pushed into start. No, I actually see it, dude. There's no, it's unwinnable for Stardust. They've lost already.
This is insane. This is like, of all the things I have ever seen drafted, Rammus mid is. I don't think I've ever had that on my bingo sheet of surprise picks. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh gosh.
Let's see for a second. So we've spent a lot of time talking about what on earth is going to happen for Wait for Late, but the actual way that the team fight plays out for Stardust Crusaders, I feel like we have yet to touch on, because if Wait for Late is trying to engage on them, yes, we know Galio can ruin their day, but what is the way that Stardust Crusaders can start to take autonomy over this game?
Okay, so what I would say is Syndra punishes Rammus really, really hard by looking to clear waves, making sure that you have solid tracking on where Kled or Rammus or Rakan are, just to make sure that you don't get ganked super hard. You shove the mid lane in, you deny a lot of experience, or you deny a lot of gold, and if Rammus is gonna take Predator and roam to side lanes, you deny a fair chunk of experience as well. If you are the bottom lane between Jinx and Galio, you can have the Rek'Sai either go bot to upset any dynamic engage that Rakan might be looking for, or you can send Rammus up top to punish the nature of Kled's playstyle, which is to get aggressive and go forward, especially when you have a lane bully like Renekton drafted.
Yeah, and we saw Renekton be super relevant last year. Granted, it was on Ethan that time, but I think that the way that this Renekton gets piloted by somebody who, I'm going to say as aggressive as Flame, because we really saw the claws come out in the later stages. Now that he knows it's my job to win this lane, I wonder if we see this Renekton become a huge pressure point on the map that will succeed on his own.
Yeah, I mean, I think Flame definitely has the chops, right? You know, the mechanical skill to completely control a lane like that. And I think the thing is, there's a huge question between Kled and Renekton in a 1v1. If one of them gets the kill early, that's the one that's going to have all of the autonomy, like you mentioned. They're going to be able to control the lane in a lot more active sense and start running away with their power. I think Flame can pull it off, although I think everyone at this point has played against a Kled that's dismounted, gets the remount, and gets the solo kill outplay, and it's incredibly frustrating to play against, which is why I was thinking maybe that's why you send Total Riblet up top, just to make sure that goes in favor of Kled, because Jinx Galio, it can be a lane that punishes engage, but I don't think it's a lane that necessarily needs to get aggressive.
Yeah, I agree. Jinx definitely going to be able to scale to those later stages of the game. And Stardust Crusaders, well, we don't necessarily see them with the exact same sort of hyper categorization into the late game. I do feel like they have those options, and we're going to have to see if Wait for Late can show us something super different and blow Stardust Crusaders out of the water here, because if they lose this with these picks, they're out of this series and will have to, take the loss, try and come back next week with picks like these. Little bit of a question mark. I'm really excited to see it, though, as we do take a short break. Spectator delay is ticking down, and we will see you on the Rift. And I'm hoping that Rammus has Predator. Welcome to Game 2 of Wait for Late versus Stardust Crusaders, ladies and gents. This is the draft of the century, and I am happy to be witness to it next to True Light on Color. My name is Diatripa, and we're already getting a 5-stack here. Flash!
Oh my goodness.
This is the aggressiveness we talked about. First blood goes to Rek'Sai at 47 seconds, and this game is off to a banging start.
Instant flash from Flame. Just like, okay, we can see the bug, we're catching it. Gets that Ruthless Predator stun in, and that means the bush just goes down. There's no opportunity for him to stay alive because it was stunned into Idol of Durand, which means that there's the taunt to follow up, and easy first blood. And that's okay, yeah, you can see that longsword now in Riblet's pocket. So that's going to be a lot faster in terms of clearing.
Oh, it is, and it's going to be terrifying for Kled if he ever shows up.
Oh, yeah, not just that. This is on a Rek'Sai, right? A champion that hard controls early and mid game through ganking, and it's absolutely going to be great for total Riblet on this one. You can see that red buff burning down so fast.
Yeah, I actually wanted to point out really quickly, just because we saw Jump Off Bush die so quickly, Jinx didn't even get an assist. That's the level of zoom that guy went off the rift at, and that's really that's a lot of burst that Kha'Zix honestly isn't going to get much stronger against.
Mm-hmm. And you can see here they actually ended up sending Ethan up to that top lane, so it's not a mid lane Rammus, just a top lane Rammus into a Renekton. And you can also see that, because I was thinking like, wow, why does Kled have Ignite? You don't have TP on your top lane, and then okay, wait, no, he's mid lane. Otherwise, yeah, I can't imagine this is going to be very fun for Ethan very early on until he starts really stacking up the armor. But engage in the bot lane.
Yeah, level 2's hit means they get a nice chunk onto Sleek, who honestly had a really rough go of it in Game 1, hoping to turn around in Game 2, and on this Galio is going to have a lot easier of a time taking these trades, taking the engages for his team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you can see, like, started the idol or channel for Idol of Durand. It gets the taunt off, although the issue was that by the time the taunt procs and gets the aftershock through, he had already taken the chunk of damage that they want to get off. Ooh, nice grand entrance there, though.
Knock up, it is going to land onto Suicidal, but a great punish. This is what you talked about in Champion Select as being so useful for Sleek when he's able to just turn these things around onto Daylight. Has the taunt, has the knock up, and that totally locks Rakan in place.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, but Rimble's here in the mid lane.
Counter gank is available. Goofy Goober is dismounted, but now Jump Off Brush might be looking for something of his own. Goofy Goober not necessarily in a place to walk straight up to the Syndra though, so we'll see the dismount into just Syndra being able to continually wave clear. Wave clear is actually something that I wanted to touch on in the early stages of the game here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, like in terms of wave clear, I'd say that definitely favoring Stardust Crusaders for the most part, especially in top and mid lane. Ooh.
Yeah, flash forward from Goofy Goober. Does manage to get the scatter of the week back, though. And can we get the kill into the Kled before he mounts? We can! Jump Off Bush now in a heap load of trouble as Total Riblet doesn't necessarily have the ability to get onto him just yet. Is going to use the tunnel, but the Kha'Zix is already out of there. The punish onto the Kled, though, so massive for this Syndra.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is, Hondor didn't even burn the flash there. The summoners that were burned were from Goober getting the flash forward, looking for even more damage. But the problem that... Oh, man. Okay, that's an engage.
Forward from Sleek onto straight traps. This big white shark is in a load of trouble here. They're actually going to continue to turn this back around onto Sleek. So much sustain out of Rakan and Senna means that they're able to keep that fight going and actually come out on top of it.
Yeah, you can see there Daylight did get the Ignite off cooldown, and I think the real difference maker is definitely the fact that Sleek had already burned his Ignite the last time Daylight went forward with the Grand Entrance. Burned the heal from Suwu, but like it's just the power of Piercing Darkness, which is Senna's Q, as well as the fact that Rakan has Battle Dance. Okay.
Yeah. A gank in the top lane could be turned around. Rammus has got a lot of armor and a lot of staying power. Jump Off Rush wants to finish this one off. Total Riblet is not really tanky in any sense of the word here. He's just going to grab the Dark Harvest off the Rek'Sai. Force the flash out in the bot lane is Daylight, though. And that's a free flash off Suicidal.
Yeah, I mean, Rakan is just a wonderfully dynamic champion, right? I think that's part of what makes him so fun to play because he's so mobile. He just jumps in and out of action through the battlefield, so to speak, and forces the flash from Suwu there. Up in the top lane, what really happens, I think, is that, like you mentioned, Rek'Sai does a lot of damage, especially early, but Riblet doesn't have any profound tankiness, so to speak. And the other thing is that between Riblet and Flame, they do primarily physical damage. Granted, Flame with Slice and Dice Empowered can shred 25% of whoever he hits armor, and Furious Bite gives Riblet access to true damage, but it didn't look like they were properly set up to make that happen. At the same time, though, burns the flash and the TP overall from Ethan, so it gives the summoner advantage to Flame, and hopefully they can use that for themselves.
That would be ideal if they managed to get something going with this Renekton, but like if we actually take a look at these trades, Rammus is just balling up every time. Riblet, though, they could look for something out of this Rakan. The traps are going to allow for so much CC in the bot lane, and Sleek is making this look like a pocket pick of his. This Galio, this is not some, oh, I guess we better flex this to the bot lane. This was prepared.
Yeah, I mean, there was that period of time last season where Galio was just like a really strong meta support, and it wasn't necessarily because of damage that it was strong, it was because it had this incredibly good engage potential. Justice Punch is a oddly long range dash, but fight in the mid lane?
Yeah, level 6s are going to be hit by both sides, though. Goofy Goober not necessarily in a position to use his own level 6, and Total Riblet has shown up to punish him here. He's just going to use the ultimate, so there's no chance of a remount, and that is Goofy Goober going down for the second time this game.
Yeah, and you can see with the pullback from the Bear Trap on the rope, getting the Grievous Wounds, it was almost enough to make sure that Hondor ended up dying there, but it wasn't quite good enough. Also, being down...
Yeah, we're fighting here, and I don't think that Kha'Zix, even though Total Riblet is isolated, is going to come out on top of that. Forces the jungler out of the jungler. Mid lane has just died, and that means Drake goes over to Stardust.
Yeah, and it's an Ocean Drake. It'll give you a little bit of regen early, but I think that as a single stack Drake, Ocean's just important as credit towards the soul when it will come up. Ethan takes no damage here.
Yeah, he does manage to grab the heal on Flame, which puts him out on top of that trade for now. But we see the armor being picked up by him. The Ninja Tabi into cloth armor could be looking for what's that? The item to throw in Melt Chain. Help me.
Bramble Vest.
Bramble Vest. There we go. I suspect we see him looking for something like a Bramble Vest here to try and just cut down on that healing and cut down on the effectiveness here. Oh. Tunnel of the wall from Riblet, though. The traps are already there, but Daylight dashes his way right over them. Teleports down to the midlight to answer Kled's charge as he charges straight under tower. He decided not to go for the rest of this. It is a defensive, a zoning charge.
Well, no, I mean, like, once you cast charge, you're locked in, right? You're going to the spot that you ult to. It's just that charge as a pathing ability is very weird. If you looked at the path on the ult, it just hugged the wall. It didn't go into the lane and then towards tower. It just hugged the wall entirely, which meant that there wasn't an engaged potential.
Drop on a rope doesn't proc the second one, though, which means Suicidal actually has a lot of space to work with. The charm is going to do wonders for that, though. Daylight will end up going down, but he trades his life for Jinx. Now, though, 3 members in the top or in the bot lane means that Goofy Goober may not be able to get away with his life. He does still have the gun to get away, but Galio will lock him in place there, as there is no shortage of CC on Stardust Crusaders to keep the Rakan around. Flame in a little bit of trouble in the top side. Half health jump off brush before flashing away. Now it's going to get taunted up and should be taken down here. It is going to be jump off brush that picks that one up. Is Ethan the guy? No trouble at all.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, post right there. Appropriate for the soccer ball Rammus.
Yeah, I mean, straight through the uprights. Doesn't hit a single person, unfortunately. But a couple more seconds, and I think Flame would have had the opportunity to get the heal off, especially because you have the Conqueror stacked up. It's a surprising amount of healing. But unfortunately, Jump Off Bush and Ethan had just enough mana to make it work.
It was just enough.
Yeah, just like they were both completely oom by the time Flame does go down. But between what happened there in bot lane is that there is so much CC when Sleek combos up with Riblet coming in to get the Unburrow, or just the Flame Chompers from Jinx, that they are able to lock down single targets very, very, very quickly, especially when Riblet is there, who has so much damage available. 6 out of 7 on the kill participation, and man, there is truly nothing that Flame can do to touch Ethan at the moment.
No, we see the Bramble that's picked up, so he's not healing any of this back either, and is not necessarily... I mean, it looks like he's going for a little bit of a shaky build, maybe a Ravenous Hydra that we don't necessarily see too often on the Renekton here.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like he could flex that into being a Bork plus a Titanic later on, but uh-oh.
Ethan, the guy, though, he's already in the mid lane, shows up even without the Predator, just shows up with the Aftershock and managed to lock that Syndra down for long enough that now Rift Herald being channeled should mean a lot of plates off it.
Yeah, and you can see they are going to get a nice chunk of gold out there through that. I don't think they can finish off the mid lane tower. Oh man.
No, flame. Okay.
Powerball available?
It looks like he lives for now. Should be able to back off if Powerball does come in, but this Rammus doesn't have the ultimate. Still looking for a kill, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about Rammus, in theory, as a laner, is that you really just need the armor into that. Oh my word.
Total Riblet doesn't have the tunnel available just yet. Charge is going to connect at the end, though. He goes invulnerable for just a little while, but it's not going to be nearly enough time as Santa ult comes in to keep Jump Off Brush alive. Flash forward from Hondor will secure him. Now AMD is going to jump straight onto Goofy Goober. Does manage to get the pistol over the wall. Flash followed from Seek. We'll get him straight on top of him. Don't give him the rebound. He manages to get Skarl back, and he jumps straight under his tower with the Joust. Hondor may be able to zone him out of a little bit of CS there. Picks up the return kill, but a nice play from Wait for Late.
Yeah, Wait for Late right there. The Goober goes forward with Jump Off Bush. Oh, man.
Actually just this. Has a lot of ability to just jump straight onto Hondor there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the power of Bear Trap on a Rope, plus getting the Violent Tendencies down, which is a very surprising amount of burst. It's almost like Silver Bolts from Vayne, but a physical damage version. And, uh-oh, wait, that's a Powerball.
Yeah, we might see him running into the mid lane, though. Gets the flash under the tower, but a nice Scatter the Weak will buy so much time for Hondor. He may be able to finish this one off here. He's taking a little bit of damage. Yeah, he is really tanky on Ethan here. Now Jump Off Brush, though, covering for his mid laner, is going to get caught out. Doesn't quite go down. These junglers are at each other's throats. Look at the health bars on both of them. Prayseeker is going to find him. Oh, there goes Jump Off Brush. Oh, no, the flash burned as well to try and get under the tower. Means that he goes down for nothing and loses his summoner.
Unfortunately, they patched that out. You can't dodge Rek'Sai ulti with flash anymore. But I feel like that's a little bit like just knee-jerk reaction. I don't hate the fact that Jump Off Bush did that. It's just very unfortunate that you burn the summoner in that situation. Otherwise, though, for Hondor, Powerball,
would have gotten the return kill though as well. As Flame gonna be taking a little bit of a bad trade in the top lane. I feel like that's not even an announcement anymore that Flame has taken a bad trade. It's into Rammus, who already has gold in his pocket, has been farming up just nicely, and has 2 assists. Flame doesn't get to play this lane if Ethan is in it.
Yeah, and you can see here, he turned that Vamp Scepter into a Cutlass, which means it will be the Bork for himself. But even though he's like roughly 30 CS up in this lane, Flame has no prayer against Ethan when he just powerballs in. And it's not even his choice to take that trade, right? Because the taunt makes him take the trade.
Yeah.
And it's just impossible to kill Rammus if you are Flame right now. Like, there's literally nothing you can do. But that does, like, with Goober showing up there in the top lane, that does embolden Stardust Crusaders to look for that second Drake, and now that's going to be the Mountain. It looks like it's an Infernal map, so, you know, get that additional damage in. Not 100% sure how useful it is against Rammus, but always nice to have.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a struggle, actually. Even if Suicidal gets ahead, it's going to have a heck of a hard time burning through all of the armor stacking that is available now, and just the amount of engage that we talked about earlier. Now that we see top lane tower gone, mid lane tower on its last legs, we might start to see a lot more explosive fights.
Yeah, and like we were talking about the engage tools that were available for Wait for Late, right? In lane, Ethan doesn't really have to worry because he knows where to go. It's really easy to just powerball straight into Renekton, but I'm not 100% sold on if they're going to be able to pull that off. Especially because I feel like the bottom lane of SDC right now, like they're actually doing quite well for themselves. The Jinx already has 2 kills, finished with the IE, but there's the charge coming into the bot lane.
They shut it down. Daylight gonna get the taunt up. Galio zoning as much as he can for his AD carry. Big White Shark still a ways from going down. Jinx ultimate not gonna be able to finish that one off as Goofy Goober chases on, gets the second proc of the bear shot. Can he remount? Flame gonna take him down just before he can. Powerball into the bot lane, might be able to reclaim a kill, but turns around as soon as he sees that Syndra, and Flame picks himself up a trade there, but Suicidal goes down.
Yeah, and you can see, or obviously you can't see it, but like what happened right there is that the moment the charge gets channeled, oh man.
Yeah, Total Riblet may be able to take out Jump Off Rush, but it doesn't know Ethan is there until right then. Going to be smited to finish him off, and now the Rift Herald solidly for Wait for Late.
Yeah, definitely. They're going to get that second Rift Herald in their pockets, which definitely is going to feel pretty good. Ethan actually absolutely cannot engage onto Hondor just because of Scatter the Weak being available. This is pretty frustrating, at least for him, because he's all armor. There's not a shred of MR on him. But wait, Hondor is going for a scaling build. Look at that.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I think this is necessary even into something like Rammus Kled being able to put out a lot of late game damage. You don't want to do the same thing that we saw Wait for Late kind of do with their draft last game with your items, where you say we're going to win this pretty early and then have just an incredible amount of beef on Wait for Late and not be able to chew through it.
That's really fair. I would say that like the only item that you really need to use to deal with Rammus, at least is Syndra, other than let's say Void Staff in the later portions of the game, it actually might just be a Leandri's, just because you have the CC available as Syndra to proc the bonus max health damage, and there's not much that Rammus can do against that. But that's like very fringe. Really,
you fight in the mid lane, Total Riblet might just be able to take down Jump Off Brush. The ultimate is going to secure that one for himself, and Goofy Goober not on the same page as his jungler costs the life there.
I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a lack of being on the same page as much as it is just a case of, well, what can you do in that situation as Kled for your jungler? You can't pull off the Rek'Sai, especially once the ultimate goes down. And there's just so little to do. I think Ethan's just gonna look for the flash taunt. Yeah.
Yeah, charge is available charge should be available for the Kled. Suicidal just at about half health. You're trying to get away from bruisers, but they're straight on top of him. Now it's a matter of can they survive after taking down the AD carry. And with Hondor here, I'm not sure that they can. Ethan, the guy, should go down here. Ultimate from Syndra going to secure him. Goofy Goober could get the remount. Manages to be taken down just before then, though the sound cue was playing as Hondor took him.
Yeah, you could. I was gonna say you can actually hear the sound for remount coming through from Kled. I think it's kind of weird that Goober didn't like instantaneously just channel the charge into the top lane, especially after like you see that Sleek and Suicidal they're completely out of position, right? Just channel the charge, get the easy engage onto one of the targets, you know, get the max health damage and the shield for yourself, and that's a lot easier to pull off. But instead, the ultimate isn't used, and it ends up becoming, I think, a 2-for-1 in favor of SDC. SDC. Okay, good.
Yeah, which is nice for them because they also get the mid lane tower off of that as well. Flame just in the mid lane that whole time.
Yeah, and you can see that reflected just in the gold lead overall. They make a positive play in terms of kills. They make a positive play in terms of towers. They're up 1 now, which translates into roughly a 3.5k gold lead, which is really comfortable, I would say, if you are pre-20 minutes, especially because your Jinx is working towards the second item. And once you start hitting more and more of those, it's easier and easier for Suwu to get multiple kills here. Oh, charge got used.
Looking for Suicidal once again. Taunt is going to buy a little bit of time. Galio ultimate going to be used exclusively for him. That means Rek'Sai is left alone in the dirt there. Hunter going to do what he can. Beautiful scatter of the week. Manages to buy time onto 3 members. Flame is flanking, but I'm not sure this is where you want to be as a Renekton. Dominus has popped to try and buy a little bit more of space, but he goes down just like the Jinx would, I expect. Now Flash Forward from Jump Off Brush tries to take down Suicidal. Is going to get taunted up though, and and the rocket will finish him off. Suicidal almost goes down to the Senna ultimate, but it's not quite enough though. Honda, the only one left alive, doesn't have the scatter of the week. Just he used it in the wrong direction, and Goofy Goober will pick him up, gets the shutdown, and now the Drake available for Wait for Late.
Yeah, but Biscuit is respawned, or sorry, not Biscuit, Riblet is respawned, and you can actually see Jump Off Bush isn't back up yet. The rest of Wait for Late, they are going onto that dragon, but is it going to go down fast enough? And I think actually Riblet might be able to get there in time.
Over the wall, the teleport is channeled, but he gets straight into this pit. He might be able to steal it. Khan manages to get it instead. We see the Powerball just waiting for the Rek'Sai over the wall. Ethan, the guy, gonna pick that kill up for himself. Rek'Sai, an honorable attempt, my friend, but it was not to be.
Yeah, Riblet, he went straight for it, looked to get the smite steal, but smited a hair early. Meant that the dragon went down to 108 health, and the rest of Wait for Late was able to wrap it up. And now, SDC, they don't have their jungler available, and Baron is up.
Yep, Rammus in the front line means that Suicidal can't walk by him. He's chunked himself out just by autoing him. A Goofy Goober's in the back line there, and as much time as Galio has bought for himself, Jinx is already down. Hondor soon to follow now, has no options into this Rammus, who's walking it down. That is, once again, another objective secured for Wait for Late.
Yeah, and there's just no way that they're able to deal with Ethan right now. The only source of consistent magic damage that they have available is Hondor. And Ethan still isn't that easy to kill, already starting to get more MR in his pocket. You can see that in the Spectre's Cowl, as well as the Null Magic Mantle. So it's getting harder and harder to kill the Rammus, and this is going to be a very easy Baron for Wait for Late now.
Yeah, and on the other side of that, there's really no options for them to peel. Oh no, total Riblet. I think he's just caught out here. Should manage to go down. There's the taunt into literally everything else as Rek'Sai falls for the 5th time this game.
Yeah, and also because they weren't able to get that Infernal Drake, they're not at Soul Point, which means that if there were a hope of like winning through Infernal Soul, that's not available for a minimum of another 8 minutes, so it's like ish, considering timer. Wow, wait, actually, Flame does a surprising amount of damage. Wow.
Yeah, he really does. It feels like he doesn't because he's been laning against this
Ethan. Yeah, that's fair.
The entire time, but he actually has built himself up almost to 2 items, has the Tiamat under his belt, and Blade of the Ruin King, certainly doing a lot of work.
Uh-oh, wait, I think they're going to catch him, actually.
Yeah, back into the middle of the lane, does get spotted out. Ethan, the guy, not quite in range of the taunt, though, and he is going to manage to get under tower. Might buy his life for just a little while, but look at the rotation here. It's all 5 members in the bot side. They're still looking for at least connected. Maybe this tower. Jump Up Brush goes to sub 100 HP. No Jinx Rocket left. Flash on the wall for Flame will secure him, but it's going to cost him his own life. Galio is jumping in, though. They want to try and turn this fight around. Ethan, the guy, is trapped under tower, and they can't necessarily turn onto all the carries. Suicidal doing damage over the wall isn't enough, though. Rammus still alive as Daylight is now the one taking the tower up, and Rammus just zoning Jinx out. There's so much health available. Redemption is going to be popped as well, and the health bars are just not moving on Wait for Late as they take down this Renekton and take down the tower that he was standing under.
Yeah, Ethan is just so darn tanky. Oh my goodness.
Well, the only option that they had, he's powerballing under the turret, looking for the rest of them. Finally goes down.
Oh, no.
Excited. Can he turn this around? He cannot walk forward. Gets chunked out instantly, and it might be yet another tower falling as these Baroned up minions are doing their jobs, and 2 towers fall in the bot lane at the end of that. Even if we get 2 kills, net loss for Stardust.
Yeah, that is just absolutely tragic if you are SDC, right? Because you have a lot of scaling, so to speak, especially through Jinx, right? But I think the problem is that it's just so hard to kill Ethan. What armor shred do you have available, right? Uh-oh.
Goofy Goober, he could get a remount here. Oh, it almost goes off. Once again, a story of tragedy for this guy. His Jump Off Brush gets crit, but gets the tower, importantly. Flame looking for the chase. There's the jump in from the Rek'Sai. We don't have a Galio ultimate to follow this up just yet, but they are still looking to run this one down. They're trying to find some sort of advantage team fight, but Ethan has shown up, and I think he alone can deny on that.
Yeah, I mean, he's just so hard to kill, even through all this CC. Uh-oh.
Is he gonna go down at the end of this? Daylight gets the knock up and jump off rush, runs straight into the backline. Big White Shark has already picked up Flame, and Ethan the guy, no, he's still very much alive. Suicidal can kill himself on him for all he likes. Oh
My goodness.
Even the Cinder ultimate, not enough. Big White Shark should be able to take him down here. Actually, he's going to be jumped on by the Rek'Sai. Riblet, claiming that one for himself, has no small amount of AD there, as he already has the Warrior and the Death's Dance.
Yeah, but you can see Goober is back onto the map, uses the charge immediately to come out of base, and right now neither jungle is alive, or neither jungler, my bad, is alive, and the Drake has spawned. It's Infernal, it's potentially Soul Point here for STC. I'm not 100% sure they can get it though when Goober and Ethan are alive and at full health. It's so hard to burn through these two. Kled because of the remount, but Ethan, so tanky. Like, you can already see that reflected in the items, right? You have the Bramble Vest as well as the Tabi for any physical damage, but right now, or already completed as well, is the Adaptive Helm, which means Syndra ult is really, really not super effective in terms of being able to burst down the Rammus.
And that's so terrifying. Goofy Goober feeling free to just charge on forward. Total Riblet. He tunnels forward, but that may have been a mistake, my friend. Is going to get taunted up, knocked up. Galio soon to join him here. Lands himself in the middle of the enemy team, and nobody can really help him on the side of Stardust. We see Suicidal trying to kite away. His support has already gone down. Hondor, does he have the Scatter of the Week to buy his life? Manages to flash away, but Flame now should mean that he's going to go down. Beautiful Scatter of the Week, though, as rockets over the wall. The Runin's doing so much work for Suicidal. Oh my god, he manages to flash forward, pick up the Rammus, triple kill for the Jinx. Should be able to find Big White Shark here as well. Gets shot so much though, and the shutdown. It is over for this Jinx. But the Dragon, importantly, is available for Stardust Crusaders, should they choose to take it.
Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure there's much that Big White Shark can do here. I don't think he has the range. Actually would need to rely, I think, on a rapid fire cannon auto proc. Definitely would be able to get that. Needs the vision though. Oh no!
He tries it. Doesn't quite end up getting it, but that was terrifying.
Yeah, missed it by 31 health. Like, very, very small margin. Actually might get Flame here though.
Forward onto Flame just to secure that one, and I like the cheeky play from Big White Shark there. Didn't have to flash the entire fight, is feeling really comfortable, and uses it to grab an extra 300 gold for himself.
Yeah, but that's a flash down on the Senna now, and that's definitely not something you want to be down the later the game goes. But breaking down that fight right before the Drake was taken, it looked so good for Wait for Late. They were able to nab up Riblet and Sleek, but Zulu has IE completed, has Runans completed, and that means you get the AoE rocket crits, and they hit so hard onto every member of Wait for Late, with the exception of Ethan. And they were able to completely burst down the team.
Ethan is really the Goliath here as he manages to lock up. Sleek could go down, flashes under the turret, fearing nothing, but Suicidal has picked himself up some armor penetration. Now gets jumped on by Jump Off Brush. In the meantime, we will see the Rek'Sai going down, and Charge is channeled. They're diving this turret. Hondor is not long for this world, and Flame soon to follow as Rammus powerballs after him. This should be the ace potentially for Wait for Late. They decide not to go for it, choosing instead to go for this Baron, perhaps the tower. But that is a convincing teamfight win for them. There's not enough grouping from Stardust Crusaders, and that teamfight falls apart before it's even started.
Yeah, Riblet falls down very early in the fight, but the other thing that happened there that enabled Wait for Late to play so forward was that Jump Off Bush went to assassinate Sulu, make sure the Jinx isn't there, there is no teamfight AD carry, and that means that Wait for Late is completely enabled to take Baron even though their jungler isn't alive.
Yeah, and I mean, that's so terrifying when you have that problem as Stardust Crusaders, because if a Kha'Zix is able to ruin your day like that, you have to decide where you're starting to put your CC, and Jinx is the one that you have to keep alive, but at the same time, if you're just trying to get Kha'Zix off her, everybody else is going to group up on you as well.
Yeah, I mean, taking a look at what's being built so far, you can see Ethan going for a very late Sunfire Cape. I would actually probably prefer to look for something let's say like a Frozen Heart, just to make sure that you are supremely tanky, but also hit Suwu just a little bit harder by reducing the attack speed on the Jinx, which is really important. Sterak's Gauge picked up for Riblet, meaning that he's going to be a little bit tankier now, but I think he still falls down very quickly, and Ethan takes a little bit of a chunk there.
Yeah, it is going to be suffering in the face of the Void Staff owner.
No.
He's suicidal, caught out of position, and that is the end of his life, or at least it should be, as nobody's actually able to finish. Goofy Goober, he just straight onto the Jinx, knows where his target lies. Total Riblet, really the only source of damage left alive here, as much as we have Flame trying to do his job. Big White Shark, though, in a lot of trouble. Isn't going to be taken down just yet, and the flash forward from Flame, will it be enough? Manages to grab that one up to Daylight, and Goofy Goober doesn't seem to have the damage, and the true... and the grievous wounds, rather, from Goofy Goober will manage to cut him down. That could be game here, actually. Their death timers are so long, and Goofy Goober and Daylight look like they're gonna be able to finish off these Nexus turrets.
Yeah, 10 seconds left on Suwu. I don't really think they have much of a chance for the Jinx to respawn. Uh-oh, wait, you might respawn in time.
You might see a turnaround here, but Goofy Goober getting the remount might be taken down. This is so
pretty hard, though. Okay.
Few autos, they do.
Oh my goodness.
Daylight on sub 100 HP finishes off the game, and Wait for Late claw their way back into this series with an insane composition.
And the pick that we were the most confused by, that we were so unsure about, ended up being the difference maker, right? Ethan on this Rammus was an unkillable Titan, able to tank up, soak up so much damage over and over again, finding the taunts, finding the power balls, and it brings this series to 1-1.
Yeah, and if your opponents are able to win with such insane drafts, with such weird and wonky playstyles, where do you go next for Stardust Crusaders? Do they revert back to something that is that sort of late game composition?
I mean, I don't think that what they ran in game 1 is necessarily going to fly again, because if you remember, right, for going into game 2's pick ban, Wait for Late banned out as much as a game 1 composition as they could in that first phase. I think they baited the Rammus to be a jungle pick, but at this point now, SDC know that if a Rammus pick does go through, it is a flex, and they might be a little bit more prepared for it this time around.
Yeah, we'll see if there is sort of a last-minute answer that we can get from Stardust Crusaders, or whether this starts to draw bans, because now, as we move into Game 3, this is the game that decides the series, and this isn't something that you can just sort of leave to chance here. So I'm really, really excited to see if Wait for Late show us another crazy composition, or whether Stardust Crusaders manage to close this one out with the standard play that we've been seeing from them, at least this game, and maybe a little bit more of game 1. I'm really not sure what we see, but we're gonna find out after we get back from a very short break and we let these teams load up into Pro Draft. mama! Welcome back, guys, to Game 3 of Stardust Crusaders versus Wait for Late. Last game was so incredibly spicy that I don't even know what to expect at this point. Rammus is off the board, though. Stardust Crusaders do not want to deal with that.
Yeah, and that is just 100% because Ethan became so hard to kill. There was nothing that the drafted Stardust Crusaders put together that they could deal with the Rammus, other than like forcing Rammus to be CC'd, eat turret shot after turret shot, and eventually die, hopefully. But on the other side, Wait for Late, they stick with the same bans that they had for Game 2. I think they're comfortable with that, and now they just pulled the Rammus ban, which was, I'll admit, just like a pocket pick, a fringe deal, and now they might feel a little bit more enabled. They drop the Aurelia ban for that, and FCC, wow, they go for the Galio.
Yeah, I mean, they did the same thing last game, and I really did feel like it was something that Sleek looked good on. Aurelia being picked up here, very different idea though. She has to slot into a solo lane, and that means that Kled Rammus, that sort of eternal duo, is broken up, and we're going to see a totally different style from Wait.
Wait, are they going to lock it? Come on.
I'm down. I'm so down, actually.
Do you think that's a solo lane?
Let's go mid Nunu.
I was just saying that because you mentioned that you feel like a Rammus solo lane is just the worst Nunu and Willem. Well, you take Ethan off the Rammus and theoretically put him on the better Nunu and Willem, which is the actual Nunu.
I think. You can feel comfortable with that. Genuinely, if Ethan wants to play something like this and continue to sustain through a solo lane and just perma push and roam, I don't think it's bad.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, especially because biggest snowball ever. It makes you immune to slow. And the other thing that I think a lot of people forget is maybe we should just hard CC Nunu if he tries to do that. A lot of the hard CC that SDC has so far is very short range. They actually might just get themselves knocked up if they tried to interrupt Nunu and Willem here. And even now with the Orianna pick, which I actually think is just great as a general purpose pick and able to be blinded into a number of matchups. Even that, in terms of hard CC, it's only command shockwave, and you don't want to burn that just to stop a snowball from Nunu and Willem.
That's true, but I do really like this Orianna pickup, because if we see even a similar style of composition last game of a sort of all of us pile in, there's nothing you can do, Orianna able to disrupt that super easily with the shockwave, assuming that it's correctly placed. And we saw Hondor, honestly, his positioning pretty good last game, and so I think that if anybody's going to pilot this Orianna well, it's going to be him.
Yeah, and I think the other thing on top of that is I don't mind that Flame is going back to the Renekton, because conditions being such as they are, there is no way a Renekton is going to be able to kill a Rammus if they are laning against each other. You can definitely shove the wave in for sure, but kill very, very, very hard to do. And but the other thing is that once Rammus isn't Flame's target, he's actually able to do a surprising chunk of damage, especially as we saw to the Kazakhs in the previous game, so I don't mind it for Flame once again. Wait for Late, they opt to ban the Mordekaiser and the Lulu. I think that's kind of curious. I guess hoping it's not Mordekaiser jungle. And also Lulu being so frustrating to play against from the first game. Otherwise, SDC, they take away Sona and Yumi, and I think those champions can definitely make Galio's day a bit hairier if it is in the support role.
Yeah, and importantly, would match up really well with the Varus, who has that identity of being lane dominant. Yumi and Sona able to exacerbate that so much more. And it looks like Stardust Crusaders trying to go back to at least a semblance of what worked in Game 1, with Suicidal looking really good on this vein. Certainly, those condemns going to be worth so much more now that there's not a direct way to get on top of her.
Yeah, and I think once again, Wait for Late. What did they like? I think something we criticized in the second game, or going into the second game, was a theoretical lack of engage tool, right? And once again, there is a theoretical lack of engage tool outside of Varus getting Chains of Corruption or a biggest snowball ever from Nunu and Willem. There is not an easy way in for Wait for Late's composition so far, and they rounded out with Soraka.
Yes, so let me just very quickly, Grievous Wounds, right? Am I hitting the nail on the head here?
Definitely, I would say so. Because I feel like with the way that Wait for Late wants like fights to break down, also Varus I don't think is too like with the nerfs to Q, is too incentivized to go for the lethality build like you used to. So you're probably going to get Bork. You're going to have a Soraka. You're going to have a Dr. Mundo. And Nunu and Willem, their consume also heals them. Aurelia going to build Bork too. So SDC, it's almost like a big sign in the. It's like buy Grievous wounds.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think that this is going to be a little bit harder for them, at least this game, unless Orianna is the one that picks up the Morellas, because there's not necessarily somebody like that Jinx that's going to be hitting everyone. But at the same time, if we look at the actual engage tools that you talked about for Wait for Late, way harder to get on top of a Vayne than it is to get on top of a Jinx. And I think that that's what we see SDC banking on.
Yeah, I'd definitely say so. And I think the other thing is that something that's also worth considering, right, is when J4 casts Cataclysm, there's not much of a way for pretty much everyone on Wait for Late to get out of it outside of Aurelia using her Blade Surge to get out, or, just burning Flash to get away from Cataclysm. Vayne, on the other hand, let's say that J4 ults on top of Vayne, Vayne can tumble out of Cataclysm. And there's a theoretical combo to be had, right? J4 Galio, which can work very, very well in a lot of circumstances. So I'm really interested to see how SDC is going to run their comp, because I think it has a number of strengths and it's really versatile.
Yeah, this is a tried and true combo, like you mentioned, with the Jarvan Galio, and Vayne Orianna is certainly going to be really good at following that up. Another thing, Jarvan Orianna, absolutely massive, and if he can start engaging onto these squishies, or honestly even onto the front line and keeping them locked in place, there's so much other zone potential that can come in from SDC that it feels like they can really start to kite out these fights and control what Wait for Late want to do before it seems like everybody is piling onto your carries.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only thing that SCC really, really needs to be careful for is Aurelia can come in at really different angles, looking to get the ulti off, dash in, get stuns down. But the other thing is that the healing, it has to be talked about, because it's so hard to burn through a Dr. Mundo. It's so hard to burn through a Nunu and Willem. But then you couple that with Soraka existing, how are you going to be able to kill these unkillable tanks?
Yeah, even with the amount of time that you buy yourself, I think that you're right. That is a huge question mark. And actually, as we pan back over to the draft, barring a swap, this might be Ethan the guy on another tank as he looks to pilot that Mundo.
Yeah, I think Mundo in general, let's say you put Mundo versus Renekton, like you send Goober mid again. Now you have Orianna versus Aurelia, and I think Aurelia can play that matchup, and you combo it with Nunu and Willem, it can work out very, very well for Aurelia. Mundo, once again, doesn't really die, and this time around, actually can wave clear and be pretty competitive in terms of damage with the cleavers. Not to say that he wasn't burning flame down as Rammus in the previous game, but that was more off the items, getting the Bramble Vest, denying the healing from Conqueror as well. This time Mundo has a little bit more direct agency, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely going to be more on the front foot, just because, like you talked about, the ability for him to start taking maybe a little bit of a backseat in terms of who starts the trades, because last time, we saw Rammus also just be able to walk into lane and force Renekton to trade with him via the taunt, via the Powerball. Mundo not necessarily having that same sort of presence means that Renekton gets to take trades that he feels favor him directly. And that option not necessarily going to be available last time, or like it was last time for Ethan the guy. That being said, though, jungle attention, I'm not sure where it starts going in this early game, because getting Vayne ahead going to be super useful into somebody like Soraka Varus, and at the same time it feels like mid is where you want to go. Do you go top to get Renekton ahead? And I'm not really sure where we see Stardust and Wait for Late start to draw together their advantages.
Well, okay, so I think no matter what, I would ask for J4 to go top, right? Flame is effective on this Renekton, and it doesn't matter if it's Mundo that you're laning into early or if it's Aurelia that you're laning into early. Mundo is a lot more killable, I would say, than Rammus. And also the effect, like the reality that J4 can get an early gank off, can really get things snowballing for Renekton. Because if Renekton can control a lane early versus Aurelia or Dr. Mundo, it's going to be hard for those champions to deal with him on their own, and that would pull up pressure from Nunu or from Jump Off Bush here, which can, re-enable you to look mid or to look bot, but you have to get top rolling first.
Yeah, and pulling that Nunu's attention is going to be huge as well, because the biggest snowball ever, such an incredibly useful gank tool, and can really start to show up all over the map. So controlling the junglers and their pathing is going to be something that I look for Total Riblet to do. If Stardust Crusaders wants to be the ones to walk away with this series, it is going to be jumping into the early game on the Rift here as spectator delay does tick down, and we'll meet you there to find out which of these two teams walks away with the victory in the best of 3 tonight. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back as we get into Game 3 of Wait for Late versus Stardust Crusaders. If you're just tuning in, my name is Diatripa. I'm joined by True Light, and we've had a heck of a series tonight. It is the last game of it as Wait for Late and Stardust Crusaders are tied at 1-1, and I'm eager to see which team will walk away with the victory tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for the first time in this series, and maybe because the pressure is on, because whoever wins this game gets all the marbles, gets the win credit. But, both teams, they are in a 5-point. But, just to talk about how spicy those earlier games were, right? Game 1, you saw SDC draft this hard, hyper-scaling late-game composition, taking away Wait for Late's identities in a funny way. But then in Game 2, Wait for Late, they fired back with the Rammus pocket pick into top lane for Ethan, becoming just unkillable. Absolutely unkillable in the lane. But this time, everything seems to be a little bit more metered out. Draft is a little bit closer to standard, but once again, you can see I think Ethan will be going top lane and Goober into the mid.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting statement from them, just, letting Ethan take the autonomy in the top side, feeling maybe a little bit more comfortable into Flame's aggression, whereas we see Goofy Goober matched up in this mid lane 2 games in a row, and it's not often that we see lane swaps like this between players. It might be a pick thing, it might be a play style thing, but I'm looking to see it continually justified throughout this game because your mid laner is often the person that you look to be a real carry in the mid game.
Yeah, and I think Goober played pretty darn well for the most part on the Kled in the previous game, playing just very, very aggressively, very, very forward. There were a number of times in the early game where it didn't seem to work out too hot, but they made it work, especially as Ethan got tankier and tankier. But I think my personal eyes in this game are kind of on the bottom lane. Sleek in the previous game was also on the Galio. Ooh, a little bit of a trade. I don't think there's much going to happen, though. But yeah, so Sleek Game 1 on the Galio, I think, was just absolutely wild. Playing very aggressively, going forward, finding the Justice Punches into the Idle around for the taunts. Both junglers are pathed towards bottom side here, although I'd be rather surprised if Jump off Bush wanted to look for a gank. And you can see that Riblet's here, though.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a push here, but Wait for Late don't quite know this yet. It looks like Suicidal may be trying to bait an overcommitment from him. He might just get the Nunu baited down here as well. I'm waiting for the camera to cut back because we should see a fight breaking out here. Total Riblet
letting him go.
Waiting and jump off Brush just now. Going to see him. Might be the flash forced out. Double up from the Jarvan is going to force the double flash as well as the exhaust. Actually, triple flashes. Daylight uses his own as well. What incredible value off the patience from this Jarvan.
No, Daylight still has flash. Had to use the exhaust. But you can actually see Riblet's still here. He might just look for EQ into the flash onto White Shark. No? Okay, just walking away. It's all good.
Nice, smart backing off from them. They recognized that he could still be there, and now Ethan, the guy, already a little bit of a disadvantage. You've got flash under the tower. Should just secure himself the first blood. He doesn't manage to get away though. The slow from the cleaver. Managed to pick up a return kill. Total Riblet forced to flag and drag away, but they're being sandwiched in on here as Aurelia has the stun prepared.
Oh no!
Though, and Total Riblet still waiting to be burned down. Daylight gonna pick up that kill, but it is Suicidal who ends up grabbing the
Hunter passes.
Now jump off Brush may be available. Suicidal not quite going to get the last auto there, but it is just going to be a 1-for-1 as as Aurelia falls, and Suicidal managed to grab it. Daylight maybe in a little bit of trouble. Is going to find the route onto Suicidal. Big White Shark here. Sleek. This is his chance to go aggressive. This is his chance. Nice condemn into the wall, and he managed to survive, grabbing another kill. Double kill for the Soraka, but double kill for Suicidal. And I don't know about you, but I know which one I'm liking more.
Yeah, not just that. What I was going to say, before the fight continued and Daylight got a second kill in the pocket there, was the thing is, even though it's a 1-for-1 trade, Bush is the one who... or Jump Off Bush is the one who doesn't have flash in that situation, was forced to go completely away. Riblet, Riblet did die as well, but Goober also died. And the difference maker to me is that the Aurelia burns both summoners, burns the flash, burns the ignite, but then on the other side of it, Hondor, sitting pretty, still has TP available, which means You can TP either back to lane or into another lane at a different time, but also has the flash to play defensively. But top lane, ooh.
Oh yeah, Ethan's starting to turn on here. He only has himself the cloth armor, but Mundo, he still goes where he pleases to an extent, and Flame just with the double longsword, not quite at a point to contest that just yet.
Yeah, I mean, so just to touch on something that you mentioned earlier, I think it's just so interesting and curious, so to speak, that they put Goober into the mid lane here. Although I think actually that Hondor is a very similar laner to Ethan. Like their picks aren't wildly aggressive, and like at the very least, they're a little more passive as players, a little more control oriented. And I think it's panning out pretty well for Goober and Ethan in their respective matchups at this point.
Yeah, they've managed to really neutralize Flame so far. As much as he did grab that first kill win.
Oh, no.
So going a little bit aggressive under the tower, grabs the kill as Aurelia certainly has the damage to back that one up. Again, we see the return kill, but she misses a huge wave as well.
Yeah, and once again, Hondor is the one with both summoners available with that TP available. So yeah, you are going to see instant TP back into the mid lane. Although the Orianna, you can see, is actually down on gold. Or not necessarily gold, but down in terms of farm. Take a quick look at the gold. Yeah, just by 100. Not the end of the world, definitely. But
Yeah,
Ethan popped ult.
He's regenning, and Flame pops the Dominus. Shouldn't be able to take down Ethan the Guy just yet. And Nunu actually bringing a lot of utility to this fight. Will be able to lock him down. Can they jump straight back onto Flame? Coldemik not available just yet. And Ethan the Guy will grab himself a kill in the top lane, putting him at 2-1 here. Look at the patience from Total Ridley. He has been spotted out.
He doesn't know that he's been spotted out, though. He's just sitting on this ward, burning so much time. Although they will shove the wave in, and I think that gives them the opportunity to look for Dragon at least.
Yeah, I think that this is certainly what they should do, especially because they saw Nunu on the top side of the map.
I would like to see, like, get the Dragon, but then also get forward vision into the blue side jungle. Jump off bush here, just so you can get some better tracking down, even though there isn't anything up other than the wolf camp at the moment. But otherwise, I gotta say, wait for late, like, they're pretty darn comfortable. Now, granted, I think the biggest tragedy for them is the fact that Daylight is the one with the 2 kills in bottom lane. It would be so much better for Big White Shark, but action in the mid lane.
Lane gank might be Hondor going down here. Does have the flash to get out of this. If he chooses it too late, though, uses the shockwave tries to use the shockwave as well. Doesn't manage to get that one off before he goes down and burns the flash, loses his life as well.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you right there. I think that flash comes out incredibly late. You either need to like flash that initial stun coming through from Goober off the Flawless Duet, or you just need to be comfortable with letting yourself die. One or the other, but in the top lane, Ethan's taking a ton of damage!
Oh no, Ethan left alone here. The grievous wounds have been picked up from the Renekton, and that should be it.
Oh no, wait.
Though. We have to play around this minion specifically, as Flame is now the one on a little bit of the back foot. Ethan flashes forward and manages to pick himself up the kill. And that's, I think, the shortest flash I've ever seen. But still managed to grab himself that one flash forward again from Sleek, though. And they're looking for Big White Shark. He has the flash and the heal available as well.
Oh, no.
Life up for the Soraka. Nunu is joining in on this gank, though, and if they delay in killing him, they could start to turn this around. Nice condemn to the wall is buying so much time. The heals from the Soraka coming in clutch. Big White Shark, he's still alive! The ultimate gonna be burned from the Soraka, and he's still double kill for the Varus. Jump off rush now, trying to pick up Hondor, and I don't think they're gonna be able to collapse on this one, but the play has already gone so far in the favor of Wait for Late.
Yeah. Oh my goodness! And jump off bush. He's just standing there. He gets the consume for the heal, and that's the difference maker of all the healing that's available for wait for late right now. Right? Big White Shark doesn't go down because Wish is cast, because Soraka is using Infusion, and it gives so much health back to the Varus that, in spite of Sleek flashing forward, in spite of Riblet being there, they can't lock Varus down, and things seem to be going from bad to worse for Stardust Crusaders.
Oh, that was so rough because they invested so many resources, and I mean, Grievous Wounds is only picked up on Flame so far, and I love it for a team fight, but if they're trying to finish that one off, they need to be taking down Big White Shark instantly and bursting him. That the amount of time that team fight was extended was their demise.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the issue is generally for Grievous Wounds against Dr. Mundo, there aren't many Grievous Wounds sources that last long. Like, you need to continuously proc Grievous Wounds to make sure that his ult doesn't get him back to full health. And, like, those Grievous Wound sources, they don't do that. But, oh,
Condor
no.
He just walks too far forward into the Aurelia. That's a little bit of wave mismanagement costs him his life.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can actually see there that Ethan did walk down, didn't even need any help, though. It's Rivulet. I don't think you want this.
No, he knows that Aurelia doesn't have ult, just wants to be fishy and cancel the back, maybe forcing her to stay a little bit longer, especially because on that back, she'll have the Blade of the Ruined King available, and will really start putting the smacking to Hondor.
Yeah, and, you know, like, considering where the solo laners are for this composition that SDC have, it's just not looking too hot, right? Flame is 1-3, and so is Hondor. They're not really able to play competitively against their laners in terms of damage, so they really have to be considering, like, okay, how can we help Suwu, like, scale up even more? Because it's getting very, very hard to deal with Ethan and Goober. Oh no!
Yeah, we see the Nunu popping up, and the Soraka ultimate as well. Wish gonna buy so much time. Flame flashes away from the Nunu, who's channeling the ultimate, but it means that Jarvan will go down. Flame soon to follow here. Doesn't manage to take down Ethan, the guy who's hovering at just under 100 HP. And once again, the healing is the difference maker, even from the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, and, you know, that's just the power of Soraka, right? Global healing available, and oh my word!
Exactly, the Blade of the Ruined King. She picks it up. She smacks down Orianna.
Yeah, Goober is just completely enabled at the moment. You can already see the Aurelia 3-2-2, like you mentioned, has that Blade of the Ruined King completed. Only thing in the pocket completed right now, but when you look across the rift at the other mid laner, Hondor, not quite even close, I think, to finishing out the Luden's Echo. Yeah, only with 300 gold in this pocket. So this is just very, very, very frustrating for SDC, because I'm not really sure they have a member they can be playing through, and they might just need to completely concede the map and hope to scale for late game.
At this point, Vayne is really the person who is at least even here, but nice defensive play by Wait for Late's bot lane means that they spot out Total Rivulet, who's really the only way to get things happening onto the Soraka Varus.
Yeah,
my god.
Oh my goodness.
You wouldn't, right? Oh no, he does it to him! Goofy Goober flashing under the tower does get picked up and shut down by the Orianna.
Oh no.
Importantly, he does it to him. Total Riblet now, he should be able to lock down jump off brush, but the condemn will actually get them to safety. Now it's Big White Shark with the corrupting chains. They might be able to take down Sleek here. The Q is going to be channeled. The true damage is not quite enough to finish him off, but jump off brush will get that one. Now Big White Shark in a load of trouble here. Doesn't have the healing to sustain through this, and Ethan, the guy in the middle of everyone, Mundo healing is too much. Along with the Soraka, they will be able to take down Flame on the side of this. Ethan, the guy is chasing down Total Riblet, is suicidal, is left all alone against a Nunu and a Soraka. The combination that refuses to go down. Total Riblet doesn't get hit by the cleaver here and should be able to survive. They're continuing to chase for it, but the flag and drag realistically is going to be the difference maker. Jump on brush, though, is going to maybe be able to hit him with the biggest snowball ever. No flag and drag available now. I think this is him going down.
Wait, jump! Okay, well, that's highly unfortunate, but, like, this is just highlighting how strong the tank line is for Wait for Late at the moment, right? Ethan and Jump Off Bush, just so tanky, not just with the fact that, let's say, Ethan has a lot of resistances built, but Jump Off Bush is now 8-0-4 on Nunu and Willem. He is unkillable at this point in the game. Like, very, very hard to catch with the phase rush. Like, incredibly hard to catch as long as he gets to consume for the heal. And they were just able to tank through all of what Suwu wanted to do in that previous fight.
Ooh, Big White Shark, flash condemn out of the wall, actually.
Oh, no.
Almost kills him. That's so... Okay, that's just unlucky. There's no... That's so incredibly sad for Suicidal, who had committed so much to him. Again, when this is the only winning side of the map, getting that kill is so ridiculously important.
Yeah, I mean it's flash for flash at the end of the day, but it really doesn't feel good if you're Suwu. It's just so difficult to even get onto Varus now that daylight is here, because even if you're gonna start bursting,
Really, she's coming
yeah,
down.
Goober's coming down.
He smells blood in the water, dude. This guy's willing to turret dive. They do manage to ping it out. Oh, I was sweating there.
I mean, Ultimate's still available on Aurelia. Wish is almost off cooldown as well. Yeah, there it is. They could look for this.
Yeah, they could totally do it, but they know that Jarvan, as well as the Orianna, are roaming down, don't necessarily want to risk getting locked up under the tower, but instead, now Sleek has decided it's his time at the shrine. There is a shutdown on the Soraka available for the Chosen here. Chains of Corruption buys so much time, though, and now the Aurelia shows up, will take down Total Riblet, the Condemned to the wall. They have no vision into the brush, and Sleek is going to be the next to go down. Goofy Goober claims himself another one. There is no dash available for him just yet, but it should be just a few seconds away. I think they dive suicidal here. Oh, they turn away. But instead, look at the mid lane. While there were 3 members in the bot lane compared to the 4, there are still 2 in the mid lane on wait for late, and they managed to grab themselves a tower, or at least the next part of the
Yeah, I mean, okay, well, even jump off the bush here, or jump off bush, they are very, very tanky, and they do have a lot of gold between the two of them. They don't have much damage, especially on towers. Like, Mundo and Nunu can do a lot of damage, but not really to towers. As you can see, they must have been hitting that thing for nearly 30 seconds, and they only got down to half. Oh my goodness.
They had so much time bot is Total Riblet. He jumps forward onto Goofy Goober, and actually, this might be the fight to end the game here. Galio is going to jump forward, but Goofy Goober still hasn't gone down. Finally will be shut down as Big White Shark's trying to do what he can here. But there it is, the turnaround from Stardust Crusaders off of an extension from Wait for Late gets them back into the game.
Yeah, a hard overextension from Goober and jump off bush. Daylight was out of position as well, which enabled Flame to go forward, grab the kill onto the Soraka. Wish wasn't even available yet, so there's no additional healing from there. But I do feel like the heroes of that fight, so to speak... No, they're not going for it. Okay, the heroes of the fight, so to speak, for SDC in that last fight were Hondor, finding that instant shockwave to make sure Absolute Zero had practically no channel time, so very, very, very little damage, but then also Sleek casting Hero's Entrance straight on to Riblet meant that that jump off bush and Goober got knocked up in the air. There wasn't much they could do to stay alive in those situations.
Yeah, that was such an important team fight, because if we see Wait for Late be able to win it, I think that's totally game. And now it looks like they're being forced out of the jungle a little bit here. Flame manages to grab himself that blue buff, and they're looking for the kill onto Ethan, the guy. The knockoff should be able to secure it, and the shutdown will come in, but Goofy Goober, to avenge his teammate, misses the Vanguard's edge, misses the stun, and forced to flash away.
Oh man, that's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. It's all it is right now. There's still an 8k gold lead, which, you can make do with.
I actually might say here, though, that Riblet was the one that got the kill onto Ethan, right? Which is great. The Mundo died. Your jungler just reset his gold.
Oh no.
So now Riblet's worth gold again. And that actually would make me sweat bullets a little bit, just because it's great to get the gold onto your jungler and all, but I really probably would have preferred to get that onto Flame at that point, just because he seems to be a little bit more useful other than Riblet's smite.
I certainly agree, and I mean, you're right. Now that
they didn't spot them.
There is so much more gold left to be picked up. I'm watching it, though.
Yeah, Stardust didn't spot them.
They are just spotted there at the edge, but Nunu's really the only one that's caught out. Suicidal, going to be able to pump a bunch of damage into him. Absolute Zero doesn't manage to do a significant amount of damage. Now,
be careful.
He's separated from Daylight, and in the front line, we have Goofy, Goober, and Ethan doing so much work, but they are just going to be taken down. Ethan, one auto from Sue will do it. Heal's going to be used to save his life as well, and another fight goes the way of Stardust Crusaders off of a beautiful brush camp.
Oh my goodness, they set the bush up properly. The vision cone does not spot out the members of Stardust Crusaders stacked up in the pixel brush, and when Jump Off Bush does walk forward, does see the silhouettes from the sweeper, it's already too late. Riblet goes straight in with the EQ. They layer CC onto Jump Off Bush until, even though he gets the absolute zero off, it's just not effective. You saw Suwu actually go off on his own, smelling blood in the water. And they're able to continue to get more kills now into Flame's pocket. Remember, Flame was roughly 1-5. Like 1-5, 1-4. Has 6 kills in his pocket now, which means, you know, he's definitely back in the game. But is this going to be a Baron to sneak?
It just might be. We see all of Wait for Late here at around the 20-minute mark.
There's no blue trinket.
All you expect. They have so much damage off of Big White Shark and Goofy Goober that I think they just get to burn this down.
Yeah, there's no vision set up for SDC. That's just a Baron taken.
Less than a minute after it spawns, they wipe the Baron off the map. They move themselves now back to almost that 10k gold lead that we've been teasing at this entire time. We're at a little bit under 9 right now, and they'll be able to create more advantages with this, maybe get themselves up to that defining number as they look to make the Baron push and maybe break the base.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is they still have Rift Herald available on Goober. Like, that's how fast the Baron goes down after the spawn right there, which means that they can have a Baron push alongside a Rift Herald, which it sounds very, very difficult to deal with, if I'm being honest.
That's overpowered. I'm done with this.
I don't think Baron buffs up Rift Herald, though, does it?
No, it doesn't. But the ability to create pressure across the map like that, if they do choose to put Goofy Goober to a side lane, the amount of unanswerable that is absolutely massive. Is Ethan gonna get caught out a little bit? Is Mundo, though, so he's gonna have trouble going down here. Galio gonna lock him up for even longer, but who's trapped in here with who? As it looks like Sleek gonna have to flash over the wall along with Pope Riblet. Ethan's still taking up so much damage in this front line. Varus manages to
my goodness,
3 across the line with the Q. Those nerfs not doing nearly enough. Goofy Goober is just going to spell the demise of the solo laner there. And now it is 5 members in the base. A clean ace off the back of a turret dive. Rift Herald no longer alive, but it's really the only loss for Wait for Late as they close out this series. Crazy game 2, insane tempo on game 3, and they are showing that they are a threat in Style Esports Season 5.
Oh my goodness. I mean, like, I think just as we were getting our hopes up for SDC, right? They were finding some opportunities. They were getting the shutdowns and getting the kills. The sneaky Baron call from Wait for Late, though, that enables them to completely accelerate to the end of the game. Just under 23 minutes on the clock. They call in Shelly to take out the turrets as well. And yeah, that just turns into the easiest, the fastest game that we had in this series.
Yeah, ridiculously clean team fight there at the end as well. A little bit of overestimation. When you have realistically only a Blade of the Ruined King on your vein and only Grievous Wounds on the Renekton, you're not going to be able to burn through the Mundo. And they sink so many resources into him. It's just not the team fight for them, especially into Baron.
Yeah, and, you know, for as difficult as a loss it is, you know, to go to a full 3 games and then lose in such fast fashion, I do have to say, if you are SDC, like, don't feel terrible about what you put down, right? I think that the comp that you played in the first game worked out really surprisingly well. You got surprised in the second game by that Rammes pocket pick. But then coming in to this final game, right? I don't think the draft is necessarily bad. It's just a question of execution. And when it comes down to executing, that's just practice, you know? Don't take the loss too hard. It's very early on in the season. But then on the side of Wait for Late, they're a little bit joking around with that name, I gotta say. Because I feel like they were the ones who were generally playing the earlier oriented compositions. They don't need to wait for anything. They just need to hit the go button.
Yeah, and they showed that they really, really can do it with even weird and sort of off-color compositions in game two. Managed to really make it work, and the fact that you can push the go button across so many different compositions and playstyles through different lanes as well is going to be really important for them as they continue to advance.
Yeah, absolutely. Both of these teams, I think, for the most part, played well. Just gotta polish it up if you are Stardust. And I would say, like, wait for late. I think the biggest bit of criticism that I could like toss that way is don't make like, you know, there were a number of times, I think, especially in game one and game two, where things just went so back and forth. Just, I guess, work on execution in that very similar way. Don't let your lead go away from you.
Yeah, it is going to be something where fundamentals are always something that teams are working on, and extending and maintaining that gold lead is one of those very same things. That's going to be all from us tonight, though. Thank you so much for joining me on the Desk True Light for this incredible series. I want to also, of course, thank our producer, Ravishing Ravish, who's done a killer job. A reminder that the Discord is linked under here if you do want to join the Style Esports Discord and keep up to date with us, as well as the fact that we will have a 1v1 tournament tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, as well as Dragons of the West versus Bucky's Atmosphere at 8 Eastern on Sunday. Tune in for more excellent League of Legends right at this very location, and we'll catch you then.